All right, ladies and gentlemen, fellow decoders around the world. There's my grandiose entrance. I got to come up with a new one though, because I'm kind of bored with that one. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, love having all of you here. And I am pairing up with, again, for the 12th time, my main man from Waters Above. It is the great Jordan. Great to have you here, my friend. Number 12.
Yeah, it's great to be with you again and really looking forward to this. It's unbelievable. I can't believe we've done 12 already. Yeah, man. Wow.
So ladies and gentlemen, Jordan and I were talking. He's 8 hours ahead of me, so our time frames are different. I'm drinking wine, he's drinking coffee. That kind of tells you the time frame. I'm not drinking wine right now, but anyways, that's kind of the time difference. But we decided, just like always, last minute, hey, let's do a podcast. And when we were talking, Jordan's been like, yeah, it's been like 3 months since I left, a certain area. I was at Mexico, and I'm like, what? I can't believe it's been 3 months. It goes by
It's
so
wild.
fast time. So if you're here and you're like, yeah, time's going by really quick, that was completely fast for me and caught me off guard, really. So
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I wasn't anticipating to go that long without and also me and you just haven't really spoken too much at all, like not even privately. I mean, I
we
know a
haven't.
couple of things have gone down. Um, I know you've been doing a lot of decoding. I have released maybe only a couple of decodes since we last crossed paths, but yeah, man, it's wild to see 3 months fly by that quickly.
Right? That's probably the fastest 3 months that I can remember in a long time. Um, Not keeping track of it, but definitely it was a long time. So ladies and gentlemen, we're just, we decided to come on here. We've been getting a lot of requests for us to come together again. I do anyway. I get emails from all you great decoders. Hey, when you and Jordan going to come back together again? Always get really high, um, visitations from all you great decoders. So this is another one. We're just improvising this, so we're just going to kind of go with the flow here. And we did discuss, we were going to, like, let's talk about aliens. And it was so funny because I have a podcast with Brashears tomorrow, and I don't know if this one's going to come out first or that one will come out first. I haven't figured that out yet because I'm going to be leaving, going on vacation. But then you had suggested, even before I even said anything, you said, hey, maybe we should talk about this. And I was like, wow, that's what I'm talking about with Brashears. And here we are. So it
Oh
seems like
wow,
the
yeah.
energy's on a lot of people's minds right now.
Yeah, it's definitely coming up a lot, and I'm not entirely sure why, because you know me, I'm pretty disconnected from the exoteric, but it crosses my desk whenever people, enough of my community bring it to my attention, and yeah, that's kind of been the talk of the town, I suppose.
Yeah. How about this?
People bleeding out of their eyes. There's lepers on the thing, and they go, "You don't know about COVID. I couldn't taste my hot dog."
I love that soundbite.
Oh my god, dude, that's probably the funniest piece from Tim Dillon I've ever heard. That.
I'm
Oh,
so glad you.
oh.
Yeah,
I'm,
dude.
swe- I'm sweating, dude. I'm sweating. I'm sweating right now. I got the AC on me because that is like one of the funniest. And ladies and gentlemen, you may not have gotten that, but you've probably got it because of maybe you had that and you lost your sense of taste. But anyway, something that Jordan and I kind of really share with the comedy of the Tim Dillon Show. Big shout out to him and his show. I'll try to find that and
Yeah,
I'll try to
man.
post it in the description of the video in case you want to watch the full monologue. It's pretty funny. But anyway,
Dude, that
little
the
disruptor.
4th of July, that 4th of July video that I played for you that last time I saw you,
Oh,
that was like I couldn't. I was dying. That was too good. Anyone
he's
who's
just
from
genius.
America and knows about the 4th of knows about, well, obviously if you're from America, you know about the 4th of July, but if you're not even from America and you've heard enough about it,
Yeah.
it will still make you laugh. That's how amazing it is. He's probably, and I'm gonna go ahead and say this, the greatest improv speaker I've ever heard.
I would have to
Like
say
I don't,
he's up there, man. He definitely is right there, man, with all the other ones you could probably name off. He
Yeah,
keeps
like it's
using,
beyond comedy. Like he's just so quick to, yeah. Anyways,
yeah. I'll
shout
just
out to Tim
throw that
Dillon.
mix up. I thought I'd just start this off with a bang and just get some laughter in there because we're going to talk about some aliens. That why not? Let's kind of we go from COVID to to eating losing our sense of taste to hot dogs. Now we're going to talk about the whole alien thing, and like I have a big podcast. This idea came to my mind, so I guess I'll just start it off here. So I was in Cancun maybe like 3 weeks ago, and I had this thought cross my mind, and it was just on theology. And I was thinking about all the script that's playing out with that narration, one of the scripts playing out. And in there, it talks about these locusts. And of course, it's in the book of Revelation, the last book, the 66th book. And it talks about these locusts being let loose from the bottomless pit. And they go out and wreak havoc on mankind. And I thought I actually called Brashears and left him a message on his voicemail, and I'm like, dude, I just had this idea. I think of a good idea for a podcast would to talk about the underground aliens, because I had watched something of his, and he was talking to his audience about there's no mention in the books of antiquity about anything from the sky per se, but definitely there is about coming up from underground. So I thought it was pretty interesting, and I guess we'll start off there. Like, I want to know your take on it. The greatest show on earth. I just did that decode not too long ago, and I mean, is this what we're going to see? All these sightings, and just it's been this buildup for how long now? How many years? From people getting abducted to the stories about. Like if you've never been abducted, people say it's the government doing it. Like, okay, have you ever been abducted before? Like, I'm not saying that you're wrong, saying that the government's doing this or an organization is doing this. But then what about the people that are serious when they say I've been abducted? I have all these stories. Like, it's not some big conspiracy. So there's got to be something to this. I mean, there is such a thing as crop circles, which I mean are like tattoos on the earth. And what's making those things? So there has to be something to this. And I think that's, something that's tied together. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I definitely think that there's something to that underground theory, because it's always kind of coming back to that. Like, the more truth you mine from this whole, like, story of life, you keep coming back to this, like, underground piece, whether it's the Tartaria conversation or the mud flood thing, or there's always like a concept of civilizations being underground, the elite apex predator going underground during a period of time. And that's always been what I've told people. I've said that if anything, the so-called alien grays that you see, this like popular image that you can close your eyes and think of what an alien looks like almost instantaneously, because that's how well Hollywood did it, like programming us with that image. They're coming from underground or water. They're probably coming from water, actually. And I don't believe in any of this outer space stuff. Like, just get that out of the way very, very early. I think we've probably talked about that in the past, but for people who are like newer to my work, that's just where I stand on it. I don't believe in any of this flying saucer being some outside of our realm technology. I look at it like it's the military, the global military, maybe not necessarily isolated to a single country's military, but at the globalist military. So, there's so many angles to take this, but since we're just getting going off the bat, yeah, there's definitely something to that if there is some sort of non-human but humanoid-like species that clearly doesn't have the same communication mechanisms as us and the same sort of body language, behavior, etc., it would be coming from underground. And the next thing that you would tie this back to is probably something like deep underground military bases. Like, it would actually again come back to military. It would come back to intelligence. It would come back to and when I say intelligence, I mean something like a CIA or KGB or something of that nature. So last thought before I pass it over to you is, I just look at the whole government that we think of being different as a show. I think they all work in cahoots with each other. They're all tied as one, whether that be monetarily, legally, when it comes to logistics, all things. I even look at what's going on with this Russia-Ukraine conflict again, having many layers, but the layer that they sell on you through media is a lot different than the layer in reality. So it's all globalist, and it's been that way for a long time, probably solidified and operating that way since World War II. And I think that's what World War II was really all about, to kind of push a global, kind of agenda, if you will. And it's funny how we talk about it now as if it's kind of succeeding, but it's been succeeding since the creation of something like a Federal Reserve System and a World Bank and a United Nations. We could go on all day about these, World Health Organization, all the Switzerland organizations. And I believe it was a big agenda on all of their part to give some sort of outside invader idea, like an alien invasion, to have some sort of a scapegoat to bring in that system, and it's the final card they pull. So maybe we could go off of that, like theoretically, where would we see some sort of event and why would we see it? And I think it's pretty much just that, to push some sort of either savior, as the government being the savior in response to the problem they created, which is the typical Hegelian, or it would be some event to really be draconian, like a C-19 event, invasion sort of deal, to push us into a bigger problem. So we have two side-by-side theories that I think me and you could kind of not only agree on as being plausible, but kind of take it from there.
Yeah. I think we talked about these resets that perhaps happen, which, like in my truth at this point now, it's like, I feel that there's resets that happen and people escape these resets, people survive these resets, but are they taking, and I say they, the people that survive the resets, however that happens, are they going underground? Because that's the only place you could go, right? Unless you went up. But are they going somewhere to escape the reset and taking the technology with them? And does the reset bring you back to a wipe of technology being completely removed from the earth? It is plausible to think about that, but why go to all this effort to bring the internet, create the internet out of Switzerland, to lay all these lines down for the fiber optic and just start creating all these towers, start creating all these satellites for Neuralink? Are we just going to have a reset? Like, a lot of people think we're going to be resetting back to the Stone Age. I know a lot of people think that. They think that we're going to be removing all the technology. And I'm not so sure about that. But I definitely think there is some kind of story, or there is some merit to the story about some kind of beings coming up from underground. And this is tying into theology, of course. When people read that book, like the Bible is the greatest spell book ever written because it's the most popular. And so therefore, if you know how Magic 101 works, when people read that spell book, they are creating those spells and they're making it happen. And so that whole story in that context, through the collective, and you're reading and prophesying and doing all this and that stuff, you're bringing it to light, you're bringing it to fruition. And it's so interesting because the government, especially the one in the United States, I mean, every time the president is inaugurated, they slap their hand on that Bible. So you can clearly see that there's no separation between the church and the state and government. They're all in bed together. And if that's the case, well, then that spell book especially the people that are like, well, it's theology and Jesus is going to come and save the day. And, I mean, it's all coming out now, right? I mean, I just broke down, and I have a big decode coming out on Jesus and Lucifer, the final breakdown. This will be my final breakdown for these two ideas, these characters. And what promulgated me to do it, Jordan, was the movie called Sound of Freedom, which is a movie about a documentary about the ending of going after child trafficking, right? Which is pretty grotesque. But the guy who starred in that movie is the same guy that starred in The Passion of the Christ and played Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like when you start to see what's going on here, you're seeing the return of the Christ, which is justice. You're seeing that. You're seeing
Jesus,
chaos being
justice,
brought to
yeah.
order. Yeah, that's what you're seeing in this reality. And I think the
Mhm.
aliens and the whole, however that's going to play out, will be kind of one of the final products to come out. And I think there may be some, a lot of people, Project Bluebeam, holographic technology, spaceships coming in. I mean, yeah, if you can't touch it, well, if it's, if it's just an object in the sky and you can't touch it, how do you know it's real? So, I'm the doubting Thomas, myself. I have to actually, do I believe in aliens? I think it's possible that there's something from other galaxies, if there is such a thing, but I haven't met one. So it's only speculation for me. Same thing.
No, and I agree. I don't think it's really the doubt. It's moreover your intuition flares up and you're exercising discernment. And I think that's an important tool because especially when we speak on this quote unquote truther movement, there's so many people that just go like full-fledged into this alien thing and accept it as real because they want to continue on the belief that there's some sort of outer space and that there's UFOs and that. But then when it comes to the concept of talking about this holographic technology, which we know exists, they turn their head because it's like that light is too bright and it blinds them.
Yeah.
And, you have to be willing to accept that there's a lot of issues here with the going to outer space stories, whether it be the one that we all know of, or it be even recent events of so-called outer space, like with what Bezos did recently. I believe it was like a 90-year-old woman went to outer space, or someone in her 80s. I forgot the exact age. It really doesn't matter, but we're talking about like no cosmonaut training beforehand. Like, as far as I understand, the G-force of entering that, state physiologically would break your spine if you don't have a solid abdominal wall. So you can't just be sending elderly people and are shooting, rocket into space without insane amounts of training. And they sell this shit on you and people believe it. It was like, then what's the purpose of having a space program where these guys go through all of this alleged training for so long to be able to withstand the pressure and the changes and
yeah.
I mean, it's like the issue with NASA and all of this outer space stuff is it's a lie on top of a lie on top of a lie. And if there's enough lies that compile it all together to this big like pinata of bullshit, then, we eat it all up. It becomes truth if enough people believe in it, just like you said before when we were speaking about theology and the Bible.
Yeah.
And it is their truth ultimately, right?
Yep.
Like, if you believe in it enough, it becomes real, and that's all that matters to that person in their reality tunnel. So I would say, like me and you are in a healthy place with this to have a dialogue, because we're not falling for either of the things. Again, coming back to our own personal experiences, it just has not been the experience that I have had, or clearly you have had. So until then, we're just all speculating.
Yeah, it's just speculation. And me being the doubting Thomas, I'm open to anything, but I have to touch it, smell it, feel it, get all my senses involved for me to believe it. I'm not just somebody to regurgitate a story because it sounds good. I really try to dissect it down. That's just how I roll. But there is, I think if you just take the context of like NASA's just a complete fat lie, space is a lie. Okay, great. But they go to such extraordinary lengths. If let's hypothetically say that they've never gone anywhere, yada, 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 the whole thing's just bunk. Well, then you would postulate, well, why would you go to that length to create that? Right? That's what I look at. So I'm like, why would you spend all that money and all those resources? The government, like I was in the government, I was in the military, and I know they don't waste money. They account for everything, and every dollar gets it's like on the books. It's not like there's no fibbing there. Right, in the context of what they're all about. So I'm looking at it like there has to be some kind of agenda of this whole entire story that they've created. There needs to be something that they're utilizing it for. And obviously there's this preparation of the Age of Aquarius and the Age of Aquarius, which personally I've broken down. I don't know if you watched the XRP decoder that I released, but it was pretty crystal clear coming out with that decode that the kingdom of the Christ is talking about the age of Aquarius, and the age of Aquarius is the age of crypto because that's Krypton, and that's what the whole context of theology was about, going into the house with a man bearing a pitcher of water. And this was all crypto related, talking about that. And that's Uranus and Leo across the way in the sun, and maybe the sun going out, which is maybe the reason why they're actually creating meat in laboratories now, because maybe animals will get wiped out. There's just so much context to this. And then you get the alien stuff.
Down, like maybe one piece at a time, because you brought up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I rambled.
No. It's okay. No, it's okay. You brought up so many amazing things. And like, for one, and we'll get to the crypto thing and the Aquarian age and some of our theories and where the crypto and the aliens and all of that fits in. But you brought up this concept of like, why would they go out of their way to do these things? Yeah. Well, you know, ultimately, I think it comes back to so many angles of belief, and getting the public's belief is all that's necessary to then have them believe in the fear that you give them too. So we could remember a recent event called C19, and anyone who studies germ theory or knows about how the body actually works, how the gut microbiota works, how the immune system works, etc., how the lymphatic system works, not just the blood system, you'd quickly be able to see that this is a humongous fraud. Okay? But why would they go through all of this effort globally if it's all fake, if it's all a charade? And people were getting sick, and people were losing their taste, and people were, so you have like this like tug of war of belief on both sides. And I believe we could ask this question all the time, like, why would they go out of their way to plant explosives in the World Trade Center towers and then also demolish with clearly bombs Tower 7 and then still feed us this whole terror attack by plane story when we just have a building free falling out of nowhere?
Yeah, well, these are easy.
Why would they go through all this trouble?
Yeah.
So for me, it comes back to the most probably uncomfortable conversation for most people, but for me and you, I know we could have it. It's called a ritual. It's a literal magic ritual, just like you were talking about the Bible being a spell book. Why would they go out of their way to write so many pages of this Bible with such articulation, and it's above the average person's intellect?
Yeah.
Well, they do it because it has an ultimate purpose in the long game. Me and you, brother, are playing an 80 to 100 year long game. This bloodline is playing multiple 1,000-year long game. They're not playing it one, member of the family at a time. They know that to be 0.0001% of the populace, but stay the head of this snake, they must continue out a plan of manipulating through optics. It's all optics. So the more we see and witness, therefore we believe, and that's all that they need to capture, is our belief in what we witness. So outer space is a beautiful example of this. If I was able to tell them to their faces, hey, if you were to just get people to believe in outer space, you're going to get them to believe in 100 to 200 more years of whatever you tell them next. And that's all they would go, okay, we should put a lot of resources into this. Because now you see what it's becoming to this day. Now they could feed us an alien invasion concept because we've seen how many movies? I mean, and what would be the best example of what NASA actually probably is? It's a fucking Hollywood studio. They got a lot of practice with those green screens and CGI. So again, if it is about the idea of wasting resources, I don't really think I would even go ahead to look at it from that angle. I would say that the greatest investment that a family of power or a mafia could possibly do is to get you always believing in what they tell you through what they show you. And if you could do that, then you've conquered human consciousness.
Yeah, I see the value in looking at that vantage point for sure. And I'm definitely digesting that stuff. For me, I think that there's something we're missing. I think there's something else. But I get the control thing. I completely understand the control thing, the control tactics. I totally get that. But you see, like for me, my foundation. So I go on foundations And my foundation, my base foundation is that the mind of mankind is being manipulated, not by man itself, but by energies outside this reality. That's my foundation. A lot of people don't agree with that. That's fine. So see, when the foundation's not, when I have a foundation and it's not the same as somebody else's, it's really challenging to move forward and create and build upon that foundation. But that's my foundation through, 430 plus videos now, showing that's something, some kind of energy or whatever it is. Some people say, well, it's a quantum computer. Okay, great. Like a big episode of Black Mirror came out. A lot of people asked me to decode it. It was season 6, episode 1, and it was called Joan is Awful. Have you heard anybody ask you about decoding this, or have you checked it out? Have you heard about it?
Yeah, I watched it and I haven't commented on it. So yeah, I have seen it.
Okay, yeah, me too. So that one obviously was like quantum computers running fractals, basically, creating fractal positions, Mandelbrot set positions. Yeah. So it was interesting. It was, and Joan is Awful in numerology was 42, which is, tied to life, the universe and everything. That's kind of interesting. And that's pretty abstract and vanilla, really, because just using that as the final say would be pretty ludicrous to do. But my foundation is that mankind's being used by something outside of this reality. I just broke down The Cabin in the Woods. Have you ever seen that movie? Ever heard of it?
I've heard of it. I'm not sure if I've seen it.
Yeah, it was a movie that came out in 2012, and it had who started it? What's his name? Who played Thor? You know who I'm talking about. He starred and played Thor, and he played in the Avengers and all that stuff. The Australian.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I haven't watched either of those.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, anyway, The Cabin in the Woods was a very interesting movie, and it was about the manipulation of this world, of this reality. It was, you had the controllers, and they were creating the movie, and then these people enter into the movie, and then they just get manipulated. And the interesting thing is that the character in that movie who kind of says, hey, wait a minute, this thing's fixed, his character name was Alex Truman. It's just kind of interesting, right? Yeah, the comedy in that. But I broke that whole thing down, and that's what promulgated me to do the greatest show on earth, which to me is Earth. So it really, the foundation is for me that man's being manipulated by energy outside of this reality, or if you want to say a quantum computer, great. A lot of people think God is a quantum computer. And then, of course, anything that happens inside this reality, to me, is supposed to happen. There are no accidents. So even if you have people like NASA or these big organizations, United Nations, and they're causing chaos, to me, their minds are not their own, and they're actually creating the chaos because they're supposed to create the chaos. And this is where you're going to get the Jesus story coming in, and the return of peace, right? Which is where the chaos has been going on for so long. Child trafficking, there's all these movies coming out, Sound of Freedom, because now you're moving into the order. The order is going to finally be ushered in. But then the question remains, is the order going to be by the same organization dishing out the chaos?
Yep.
And then so we get on this merry-go-round and we never get off. We never get off this merry-go-round. So it's golden age to dark age.
Well, that's why the guy who's the concept of that movie, Sound of Freedom, I forgot exactly what organization he was in because it's all compartmentalized, but
underground something. Yeah. Underground something. Yeah.
Yeah. What did he work for? The Department of Homeland Security or something like that?
Something. He was a government agency, and he got fed up, and yeah.
So that's their story that they get to. And again, I get it. I know some people right now are like, Waters, how dare you? He's saving the kids. Yep. And I'm like, you guys got to see the fucking chess game here. Yep. They get to now go back and say, oh, remember you QAnon retards who used to talk about how we're keeping kids in under, well, actually it's none of that going on. And one of our own has gone out of his way to save them.
Yep.
That's their chess game. And people are not going to wake up to this until it's way too late. And again, it's it's doing what it needs to do. And that's right. What I just said, although it's spicy, it gets people to see my chess game of how I analyze this sort of stuff. Like, again, you pointed out a great point. Like, the dude who is playing the role of Jesus in The Passion ends up pursuing this as his next big film, and it's all part of this big grandiose script, as you are well aware, and we're all just playing our role in this. Like, I believe the guy who's part of the Department of Homeland Security that left and has started this organization and really is doing what he's doing right now, I believe he's really doing it because he genuinely wants to do it. By no means am I saying it's some nefarious operation to gain belief out of the public that the government's a good team of people. That's not what I'm saying here. I believe there's real compassion. I do think there's a lot of people in government, in military as a whole. I believe there's a lot of good people in law enforcement that have a heart, that really care, that really want to save people. The same thing with our doctors and nurses. How much shit did they get during COVID from the so-called truther community? So I want people to really hear where I'm coming from right now. These people, a lot of them had no idea that they were being swindled by their boss, by the uppers, the people above them. They had no idea. They didn't know about germ theory. They didn't know about any of this shit. They don't know what's inside of those syringes. They're just doing their job, right?
Yeah.
But they're unaware. They're literally being used by some force to go out of their way to continue what they do, just like an ant does as it's gathering food for its, So we're an interesting species, right? We operate almost like an insectoid more than an animal.
Yeah.
I don't look at us as animals at all, actually. Like, when the typical animal, of course, we could look at a bug as one too, but I do see us being more like an insectoid type species, the way our consciousness runs. And that's why we're so easy to kind of push in this particular manner. And I see that right now we have so many colliding narratives. And again, I just always remind myself of this chess game. And what you brought up, I'll reiterate one last time before passing it back to you. Is this thing that they're doing a big setup to get you again to like feel good about an entity? And are you disregarding that nuance? Because if you disregard that nuance, you're going to continue to get caught up in this like belief game. And it's going to be hard for you as an individual, one who seeks truth and seeks to expand consciously. Like, it's going to be hard to see where you fit into this. And I think me and you could both agree, like, it's all about you being the main character in this movie. Don't worry about a Jesus. Like, worry about you being the one.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I mean, his name, if you're a fan of the Sound of Freedom, like the movie, the work was inspired by this guy, Tim Ballard, who was the founder of Operation Underground Railroad. Right. Yeah, so he was it's a nonprofit. And, you got to, the way I look at it, ladies and gentlemen, is, see, Tim Ballard is doing his job. He's the star of the movie of Operation Underground Railroad, right? That's what he incarnated, part of why he incarnated. His incarnation was that, like, you wouldn't have a job if there wasn't the bad guys. Not everybody incarnates to be a good guy. Not everybody incarnates to be the antagonist or protagonist. There has to be balance in this reality. I mean, I have this, like I said, big decode coming out on Jesus and Lucifer to finally put it to rest, and support how this energy works. And it really is very simple. We live inside of a battery. And how does a battery operate? Anode and cathode, positive and negative. One gives off electrons, one takes electrons. One is a donor, one is a receiver. That is your Jesus, Lucifer. That is your angel and demon. That's exactly how, and then you can bolt on all your other subordinate players and pieces of saying it's this, it's that, it's them, it's they, this part, they're doing the police and the fire department. And like, this is all anode cathode in this reality. That's exactly how it works. And when you get these scripted realities that I see, I mean, just the fact that Sound of Freedom, I mean, you want to talk about completely, I mean, are they really doing it like that? What I'm about to tell you. Sound of Freedom comes out on July 4th, and then the Passion of the Christ comes out 180. What was it? 100? Let me just hold on. Let me hold that thought. Let me just get this. I want to give you an exact timeline of what I can tell you here, because there's just to me, it's like if they're really sitting down, if they're all in on it to sit down and really bring this down exactly the way I'm going to tell it to you right here. Like Passion of the Christ was delivered on February 25th. It's the 56th day of the year. That's lights, camera, action. Okay. Number one, that's a big flag for me. February 25th is 225. That's Ra, Radium, the sun. That's Christ. Then the Sound of Freedom comes out on July 4th, which is day number 185. And if you add 185 to 56, the 2 days these movies get released, it gives you the total of 241. And that's the 53rd prime number. And guess what name equals 53 in numerology? Yeshua. So you have two movies. One comes out in 2004. One comes out 19 years later. 19 is the sun. And they're both about Jesus. And then the other one's about freedom and justice and taking down the bad guys. And there's more to it. There's Mel Gibson and the director of Sound of Freedom, and Jim C, Jesus Christ, plays Jesus, and then he plays the Tim Ballard, the guy who goes out there Underground Railroad and takes the bad guys out. There's no way these people are sitting behind the scenes and scripting this out pre-planned to get all this stuff exactly the way it is. There's just so many moving parts. That's just one slide from this upcoming presentation. And this just, to me, there's just no other way to explain it here. And then what would be the purpose? That would be my next question. Why would you code it this way? Why would you get it exactly this way? Why is the government and the state in bed with the church? And why is Jesus the most popular character on the world stage? And why is everybody waiting for his return? You know, these are the big questions I ask. And now you have these aliens and the whole alien topic in the underground, and you can bring that right into theology and talk about the locust and the bottomless pit and Abaddon and all this stuff that's talked about. And you're having all these alien sightings, these craft sightings, all this craziness going on the world stage because you're at the end and moving into a transitional period. And now it's the big shakeup. And now you're going to see the greatest show on earth. You're going to see it's coming, folks. It's coming. I think, 2023, 2020, I don't know what you have it pegged at, Jordan, but I really have a feeling 2024, which, 224 is Radium Ra. I really have a feeling that 2024 on the Gregorian calendar is going to be pretty damn big.
Yes, 100%. I think it's going to be a very confusing year for a lot of people too. Like it's going to be a lot of clarity for some as it becomes very confusing for others, which is how energy works. Where there's mass confusion, there's clarity for some. Where there's mass poverty, there's lots of wealth for some, etc.
Yeah. No,
I believe that's going to be a very transitional year, very similar to like 2020. It was a very transitional year regarding a lot of energy in all forms of currency, which there's a positive thing to this. One, you can get very rich in 2024. You can mine an immense amount of consciousness in 2024. You're going to have so much more clarity, but you got to put in the hard work now. You got to put in the work now. And when I say, I shouldn't use the word hard work, I should really just say the work. And I think everyone knows what I mean by that. Like it's time to like get your attention invested in the right stuff instead of paying attention to distractions.
Yeah, I mean, how about you talked about this a lot. How about the Olympics coming up next year? The 2024 Olympics being held in Paris.
Yeah, there's a dramatic distraction that's going to gather a lot of prana. Hey, I wanted to bring something up just to go light on the code for a second. When I heard the title Sound of Freedom, it kind of reminded me of that song by Bob Marley, Redemption Song, where he says these songs of freedom. And it kind of has that same sort of essence. And I think if you listen to the lyrics of the song, like, I mean, don't think about the melody, don't think about any of that stuff, guys. Like, just read the lyrics. I think that's a good practice for a lot of people, because especially if you're not a musician or not a producer or not somebody who's been in the industry, it's very easy to get caught up in melody, and then you tend to not actually pay attention to the lyrics, like the meaning behind what the person's saying. And if there's any best lyricist of all time, it's probably Bob Marley. Like, better than Biggie, Tupac, any rapper, any poet. Like, I think seriously, if you read the lyrics, they're going to be very mind-blowing, very emotional. And that song, Redemption Songs, he says that these songs of freedom, and he asks it as a question. And it just kind of, I feel like that might be the foundation or the inspiration behind that Sound of Freedom title, even though it's slightly different. But I do think that might be an inspiration. So if you take the date from when this releases, July 4th, you said, over to, speaking of Jesus, Christmas, December 25th, it's 174 days. And redemption song, just basic English ordinal gematria, equals 174.
Yeah, and
Baby.
sound of and the 174 is tied to the element lutetium, which is the 71st element. Lucy, Lucifer, lutetium. 174 is the numbers of Lucifer, and Sound of Freedom in Chaldean is 75, which is the numerology of the Hebrew spelling of Lucifer. 75 is history repeats itself. That's the number 75, because that's what it does. That's how the light bringer and Jesus are all tied to this. The anode and the cathode, the battery, the Phoenix event, this is all part of history repeating itself. Bob Marley was, he had he has the 6 of spades birth card. That's the card tied to the photon. That he had that Buffalo Soldier, that he's the soldier of the sun. Bob Marley. He had the sun, the card of the sun for his birth card, the pulse of light in Genesis 1 verse 2. And it says God's spirit moved across the waters. That's his birth card. That's Bob Marley's birth card. That's why he was so prophetic.
Yeah, incredible, man. Really.
And 37, the 6 of his birthday is on this 37th day of the year. Eye in the sky is 37. Bob Marley. Big time. I decoded him in my 56. He was in there because of his birth card. He's got he was born on the 6th of February, died on the 11th of May. 6 and 11, you bring that together, that's the golden ratio. Just so scripted his life. Beautiful script he got, man. He got to be a very successful artist, but then he gets taken out.
Yeah, I think that there's so much to say about him as a character, and it's been wild to hear all the conspiracy theories that have come up over the years about his death and about his rise to fame and about all the things,
Yep.
And I think that there are these stars, right? These player characters that enter this realm that are just, they shine so bright that it's impossible for them to not be seen. It's impossible for them to not be the one, And even if they're in the obvious poverty and, the shambles that is Jamaica, they can still come out and be this world, phenomenon. And I think he's a great example where it's bound, it breaches these limiting beliefs like racism, especially at the time. Geez, and we have a lot of these examples. And if anything, what it could do for the semi-conscious beings, it could show you that all of these identity things that are creating limiting beliefs for you, which we know of in the past couple of years, has been put as on the spotlight, things like the identity politics and gender and all of that. It shows you that these guys are very influential in that sense. Even if they are part of the so-called Illuminati or Masons or whatever you want to, say what group they're a part of. I know that's what a lot of people are going to, especially maybe people that are more intrigued in our work, they're in the know, right? So they're going to come quick to say some of these things like, well, of course they became famous because they're a bloodline elite, but it's like, none of that really serves you. What serves you is either inspiration or just the knowledge and the awareness.
Yep.
Nothing serves you what secret society these people are in. It doesn't change your life. So if you can't figure out a way to get inspired by it, then I don't know what to tell you. And I've been immensely inspired by Bob Marley's lyrics, and there's a lot of music out there like that song Zimbabwe, which isn't super popular of his, but I remember during that C19 scam, like I was listening to that song all the time because I really did feel this sense of loneliness in my little circle of like, why doesn't anyone see the world as I do? And the lyrics in that song are very much like, hey guys, we have this parasite and we could win against it. And the only way to really do that is through collaboration. And what this parasite has figured out, a way of controlling us through getting us to focus on identity so that we hate each other based on these matrix level, you know, just on the least important shit.
Yep.
And
yeah,
it comes back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Marley he's Rastafari, right? I mean, it's got Ra in it, Rastafarianism, Rastafari. I mean, the flag.
Yeah, it's a really interesting religion. Like
it's all
the whole Haile Selassie character and all of that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, but it's gonna be Yahweh, because it's Jah. That's it's a monotheistic, and it's Jah, which is Yahweh. And then if you go to their flag, it's the Ethiopian royal standard flag. It's got the lion on it, and the lion is Leo, and the Leo's ruled by the sun in astrology. So it's all Ra and the sun reference. So this is all Christ reference. It's all Christ reference. And of course, remember, ladies and gentlemen, in astrology, what's across from Leo? Aquarius. And that's the age that we are or already have moved into. So the symbiotic relationship through the stars, the map of the stars, is Leo the lion and Uranus and Aquarius. And this is the age that the Christ in theology was talking about, the connecting point. That's when because he comes in the age of Pisces, he says, my kingdom is no part of this world. Yeah, it's not part of the Piscean age. It's the next one, the age of Aquarius. This is where you're going to get justice, which is what we're seeing now. You're going to start to see justice, and people, I don't know about you, like, I'm like a hermit. I'm not really no part of anything. I'm not going to be that one over there cheering when things start to crumble. I don't care. Like, it's all supposed to happen.
No, that energy is really, it's something I noticed a lot in the C-19 moment, because of everything going on with Trump, and you had the QAnon thing going on, and then you had everything going on in the so-called healthcare system, which I call the sick care system. But yeah, like, we had so much of this, like, whenever they would start to so-called lose, people would be like cheering it on. And
yeah,
I know me and you have even spoken about this, about like, if the IRS was to get, destroyed, people would be cheering. And I'm like, I really don't have that feeling about anything in life anymore. I've moved through this energy, and it came through some deep work that I had to, but I tell this to people all the time, like, you need to surf inside of yourself for some forgiveness, and to just let everything play its own, storyline. Like, don't be concerned on something else's downfall. And if it does, and you're sitting there and cheering it on, that's literally the mockery that they tell you in the crucifixion story.
Yep.
You're sitting there and you're watching the savior, quote unquote, get nailed to a cross. And there was people literally there, like, I mean, if you were to think of the concept, that were like probably gambling on it. Like, how long is it going to take for this guy to die of blood loss? They were probably doing fucking stock futures on it. Like, this is how fucked up we are. Like, we're literally like this. Like, if they were to do public executions again slowly, like, just start, like, and they were like, he's a pedophile, so people would be sitting there cheering it on, like, being like, yeah, this is a good reason to watch somebody slowly die on camera. People would love it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the nature of man. Like, we like watching the so-called bad guy get dealt with. And I think that we need if you really want to expand consciously, and you really want to make your way to like the next phase of whatever this is, like, you need to stop cheering on the loser. Otherwise you become a loser too.
Yeah, but then, say that to the person who, and this, is not rubbing what you're saying the wrong way, but the people that actually get affected by the people that end up getting brought to justice, like, maybe
we all do.
No, I know, but I'm saying, just a scenario. You have a doctor who kills your wife through, treatments that he wasn't supposed to give her. And then he does it to like a whole bunch of other people. And then he goes to court and they take him down. That person that loses the wife, obviously is very emotionally attached to that story, and they're going to give it energy. They're going to feed it.
For sure.
Right. So if you're one of the people, if you're in this reality now where you can be away. And this is where I feel like the whole lukewarm thing, this, I think probably the biggest scripture in the Bible, the one that if you want it, like a lot of people ask me, is there a way to get out of this game? Well, the only way that I know how at this point is there's one scripture which it matches to your birthday, Revelation 3 verses 16. And it says you got to be lukewarm. What does that mean? It means, because it says, if you're not hot or cold, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. What does hot or cold mean? Playing the game, right?
Yeah.
Being heavily invested into the game. And as you said, not cheering on. That's playing the game, not cheering on the bad guy losing in that sense. It's this, there's no difference between a freaking praying mantis chewing on the head of its mate that it just copulated with. There's no difference. That's
we as humans with the desire to rationalize, we always want things to be good and bad. And we remove the circumstantial piece of it. And then when we live through it, again, we're always kind of stuck with, if it was bad, how much do we want it to traumatize us? And I say it that way on purpose. We choose how much we desire to be traumatized. I know that's hard for people. We live in a world where everyone's kind of playing this victim and they want to have a blame game. That's comfortable for people. But going back to this doctor and the losing the wife, it's like, no matter what happens to this doctor, you never get back the thing that's affecting you the most, which is the loss of your wife. That will never, ever happen again. You could be compensated financially. This guy can go to jail. He could be beaten on live television. It does not ultimately bring you back the thing that you think you lost. And see, what I say now to this, and this is going to be very hard for people, is you had ownership and possession over something that you never actually did own. We as beings have this, we love to own things. We say, it's my wife, it's my toy, it's my car, it's my house. Bro, you don't even own your own skeleton.
Yep.
You're an organized ball of water that, just happened to be here. It's so miraculous that you even met another person that you resonate with at this level. But I don't fucking own you. You don't own your wife.
Yep.
See, they make you think you have ownership because you went through some ring on the finger ritual with the church. Yep. This is what really we need to work through. We don't need to work through our hate of the doctor who so-called killed her wife. We need to work through the step one, which is this thing of ownership and possession. You don't own anything. You don't own your dog. You don't own your cat. You don't own your iPhone. You don't own this computer that I'm on. If you can get there where you can just surrender to that truth, then it's going to be a lot better when these so-called tragic things happen. You're going to see it for what it is. You're going to actually probably celebrate the loss of it now because you see it as this leaving of the physical prison.
Yeah, that's a lot of programming to undo.
Bro, I get it. I know what
you're talking about.
It's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about like a very advanced way of thinking, and people.
But that's what I want to remind people of. That we're all helping each other remember, brother. Like you're helping me remember. Yeah. I hope that these words are helping somebody remember. Yeah,
I'm right there with you. I get what you're saying, and I know a lot of the audience out there gets what you're saying. But then then there's that flip side of the coin where if you were married for 20 years and your wife gets taken out by a doctor by malice, your emotions are so heavily, you have so many years of being in love with that person and emotionally tied, being in that state of mind where what you just talked about, like being obviously neutral to it, saying, okay, it is what it is. I'm not going to have any emotional reactions to that. That's like, people would say you're nuts for saying that, right? Because you have 20, 30 years of programming of being married and emotionally involved with that person. So life gets in the way. And this is why detachment, for me anyway, being a minimalist, and then, I've been by myself since 2018. I mean, I don't even know what it feels like anymore to be in a relationship. But again, I mean, I'm not opposed to that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I can look at what you're saying and I could definitely see the value in what you're saying to live through that. But when you're playing the game and you're married and you got kids and you got a family, you would do anything for those people. And if somebody harms them, you're going to get emotionally involved with that harm. Whether it's justice.
Absolutely. And I'm not telling people to not feel the emotion, to feel. You must feel. I want everyone to completely embrace the feeling. There's no numbing here. What I'm saying is the doctor part of it, the person who's causing the problem. This guy becomes your Satan.
Yep.
That's all you're doing.
Yep. Simplifying it, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, exactly. That guy, and if there was some, I'll tell you another story, by the way, that I think we could all have a little little fun mental masturbation for a moment. Let's just say you were somebody that was hardcore anti the medical institutions. You were against doctors. You were against treatments. You were against chemo. You were against all this stuff, right? Everything you hated. You knew about germ theory. You're like level 30 woke, okay? Now, something happens to your wife, and you don't know how to solve the problem holistically. You don't know how to solve the problem because maybe you didn't learn about fasting or detox or whatever the case is, right? And she's fallen very ill. And now there's this treatment they have, this whatever, it's very specialized and it costs a lot of money and it's going to put you in debt and whatever. But again, like you just said moments ago, you would do anything for your wife. So you do it, you go through it, and she survives and she lives. And now you have to live with this. The doctor and the medical institution actually saved my wife. Now you have to deal with that burden of how you were so against this system. You know the truth, allegedly. You have all this, like, you know, receipts on how evil they are and all the nefarious shit they've done. But look at what it did for you. It saved your wife. You see how this could work in both directions?
For sure.
Now
man.
you're left with, now do I have to believe that these people are good and that because, and we're going to play that game all fucking day.
Yep.
So if people heard what I said earlier and it like pinched you, good. Like,
well,
good. I'm glad it hurts. I'm glad it makes you sweat a little bit, because I know it's an advanced way of thinking, kinda, but really, like, it's just showing the nature of how we respond or react to the so-called Satan character in our lives. Who could be anyone. It could be your mother, it could be the doctor, it could be your best friend, it could be your ex-wife who cheated on you.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm just telling the individual right now. I'm saying, I know we're all dealing with this programming. I had the programming too. When I broke through that programming with one person, just one, brother, when I just broke through that with one, it had this cascading effect in how it worked with everyone else. And then I started to actually walk in grace.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so
you know,
I know
again,
it's difficult. I know
it is. And this is a lot of, you know, I get probably a big question I get asked. People is like, how do we get out? How do you break out? And my simple answer is detach. The more you detach from life, right? And I'm not saying just be a hermit and don't get out there. Like, yeah, get in nature, put a smile on your face. I'm talking about detaching from the mainstream, the things that are energy vampires, if there is such a thing. And get away from the things that are wanting your energy. And that's how, and you become a minimalist. Like, you know, like going out, like I don't have a car right now. I don't own a car. You don't own a car either, right?
No.
Yeah, I don't own a car, right? And a lot of people that have cars, like, how do you do it? Well, I don't need it. I got a bicycle, actually. And my bicycle,
yeah,
if it breaks, it's super cheap to it's inexpensive. It's not a liability. I don't even chain it up, right? I don't even, it's like a beater bike, so to speak. It's a cool bike, but it's a beater. I don't even chain it up. I've simplified my life, so I'm not attached to the game as much as a lot of other people are. Like, I don't have a dog, a cat. I don't have a wife, 2 kids. I don't have a house, I don't have to pay insurance. And some people, a lot of people in this world, they want to do that. And I get it. Like, that's your code. That's your screenplay. You being the star of the movie.
They want to do it, but they love complaining about having to do it.
Of course. Yeah, of course. But that's the human being species, right? We get engaged in the game, and then we complain about what we don't like. That's what
we complain about the rules we never studied.
Yeah, we don't study the rules, and yeah, exactly. I mean, there's definitely an overhaul coming for our entire reality, for sure. But that's, to me, the simplified way of if there is such a thing as getting out, is to detach. And that brings in what you had said, which was a little spicy, right? Like, not giving your energy to the situation of that devil that came into your life, so to speak.
Let the pain be your teacher. Let the loss be your guru. Stop making humans your guru. Make the loss be your guru. Make the pain, make the suffering be your teacher. Okay? Because that's really where you're going to mine the most consciousness. And coming back to something that, you know, again, it's controversial and it has to deal with the so-called truth movement, is this like you'll own nothing and be happy thing that comes from the World Economic Forum. And I gotta admit to everyone right now, like when I started like getting rid of all my so-called worldly possessions, I started to become immensely happier, having this lightness, like what Logan just brought up. Like, I don't own a car. I used to own like 15 guitars. I own one now. You know how weird that is for a musician who like loves and is the most passionate of a particular art form, and I only have one instrument? That took me some programming to work through. You know, I used to have a vinyl collection of records really to me, and I played and I sold that whole thing, and that was like my breakthrough from the prison of materialism. And a lot of people would be like, oh, but it's a record collection. It's not like you're like a heroin addict. You don't get it. If you are into something like that and it bogs down and you can't like, you don't want to make any change to bring yourself true comfort, which is that lightness we speak about, well, then it's heroin. It's no different. I've seen people completely bury themselves in items, in materials, to the point where they have, it's like it's become their identity. They become their collection of whatever bullshit they've accumulated over time. And when I started to just get rid of all that stuff, that brought me a supreme amount of happiness. I did a live stream one time where I was kind of trolling on everyone, where I'm like, see, you guys don't see the wisdom and the flex behind what this World Economic Forum is saying right now. And I know the way most people took it, because that's how most people are, right? They're like, he's supporting the New World Order. And I'm like, no, you guys got to understand that this is chess. You're playing checkers if you think what he's saying is evil, because that's what you do. You're only one move at a time. And you gotta, if you want to like really grow here, you're gonna have to see that other dimension, that other angle. I'm not here supporting anything. I'm here supporting truth. And it is a truth that when you have this lightness in your life where you can make decisions on the like spur of the moment and be as present as possible, it feels really nice to be able to execute and take, opposed to having to calculate 20 different, who's going to watch my dog, my cat, my iguana, who's going to be able to feed my plants, who's going to, you right?
I can't taste my hot dog.
Nobody, I can't taste my hot dog anymore, bro.
Yeah, no,
what's gonna happen when
totally.
So like, you know, jokes aside, like really, like that was something that changed the game for me, was just getting rid of like a lot of these addictive connections I had to accumulating items. It took me some time, but I mean, it really is something that I tell everyone. It helps. Because I hear so many people that were like, I would love to travel. I would love to do this. I would love to do that. And it's like, well, tell me the reasons why you can't. And it's all choices they made. And then at the same time, they get jealous of people who do travel and who can be a little bit more, have a little bit more of that freedom. And they'll always use excuses like, well, you're young, or you're not married, or you don't have kids, or you're this. And I'm like, you could play that game all day. And that's called lack. Like, if you want to live in the world of lack, like me and you won't communicate anymore. I'm very direct about stuff like that. Like, I don't keep a circle of people who limit me.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it really comes down to marketing. I mean, you know, like you, Jordan, as a person, all your viewpoints, everything you've been saying here, you're marketing your expressions, your ideas, your way of life, and you're not doing it to reel people in. You're just providing your way of living. And it's the same with me. My voice, my way of living, my way of marketing, my lifestyle, right? And the people that go against that, like, well, you wouldn't get it. You know, like, I got kids, and that's you're marketing your life. If you have kids, you have a family, then go do that, be that star of the movie there. But if you want to travel, then, you know, make the decision to do that. And something's going to have to get sacrificed to do that. But ultimately, you know, like, personally, for me, I think you know, if your mind has been moving towards minimalism, you know, a few of my friends have sold their houses. They've changed their way of life. They're becoming more free. I personally would recommend anybody out there that resonates with becoming a minimalist to try it out, because it is very freeing. You don't have you reduce your liabilities in life. You increase your assets from the yin yang perspective. Like I was just, you know, like maybe like a month ago, I was going to get one of those little electric scooters, you know, those things, the little electric scooters with the tires that are about 2 inches big. I was going to get one of those, because I was going to ride it. I was like, oh, this would be kind of cool, ride around town. But I'm like, I thought about it. I sat on it. I thought about it. It was on sale. I'm like, oh, it's a good deal. And then I finally decided I wasn't going to get it. And the reason why I decided was, number one, my bicycle gives me exercise. That thing would take exercise away. So it would become more of a liability. My bicycle is more the asset. And I already have the bicycle. You know, it was just another extra item. I felt it would just bog me down, because I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And it's like, I'd have to get rid of it, take it with me. It's just another accessory bolted onto my life that I just felt like I didn't need. And it was playing the game. Like I got 2 pairs of Ray-Bans, right? I bought 2 pairs of Ray-Bans, custom Ray-Bans. And I was like, I got them. And then the shiny new toyness wore off. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get another pair. And then I thought to myself, why? It's just going to cover the sun the same way these do. They're just going to look different. And I'm not out to impress anybody. Right. So I'm really, for me personally, my stage of life, and I have been working on detaching and letting go of the ego, which you're never going to get rid of it completely. But in the sense of where, like, you don't need that. You don't need to fulfill that to play the game. Just work with what you got. Right. And it's been challenging. I've really learned a lot by going into minimalism. I really, really have.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a whole different, you know, course of life, because since we're born, like the number one way that you get the baby to just shut up is here's a piece of material. Here's an item.
Yeah.
We're doing it to children. We're just giving them items. And it's like, this is it, you know, and kids don't need toys. Like, you put a kid outside in the grass, it'll just play with a twig all day, laughing. It'll do whatever's in its presence. Like, but if you're taking kids and from the moment they enter this realm, because of the, what do they do? The, the baby shower. It's like the kid has more toys before it's born than, you know, hours of sunlight. And it's like, it's insane. And people don't realize where this programming starts. It's all starting right there. I'm not saying toys are bad, by the way. I'm just saying that's where this sort of hoarder-like material addiction connection comes from. It's systemic of childhood.
Yep.
When it's Christmas time, you leverage on Christmas as a parent to get your kid to behave a certain way for an entire fucking year. We've even made up stories about how we're gonna like punish you if you don't do well. Like, we'll put coal in your stocking or whatever the hell. Like, you're using that as a leverage to control children. Therefore, you're promoting the materialism even more, because that's a reward system. Humans are very simple creatures. Yeah. Very, very simple. Become better parents. That's what I got to tell people. It's funny how when people talk about the idea of not having kids versus having kids, it's like, I don't care what it is. A majority of like what it comes back to is be better. It's not about what you have or what you don't have. It's that take personal responsibility, be better. And that only comes from you actually observing your own behavior and breaking some of those traditional patterns that you live through. That's your only opportunity here to like expand. And we've all been dealt this. So if anyone wants to say, oh, my parents were amazing, or my parents were shitty, or this, that, and the third, it doesn't really matter ultimately. It has to deal with like, what will you pass on? Right? Because that's all of our roles. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all here because 2 people fucked.
That's it. It's humping, baby.
That's it, right?
Yep.
So if you're gonna make that decision,
a little dirty in the shower, whatever, then there you are. You know, exactly. I mean, it would be kind of a fun exercise if we all really found out how our parents humped to get us here. Like, where were they?
Oh, no.
What position? Does that have any kind of?
Do you know Tom Segura?
What do I know? What?
Do you know that comedian Tom Segura?
I know that. I know who that is. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a joke where he's like, have you ever thought about how many people you've slept with? And then like a moment later he's asked like, have you ever thought about how many people your mom slept with? And then he's like, have you ever thought about how many people your grandma slept with?
Oh wow, he's going really far back.
It's a really, really dark joke, but it's funny because it's like it's the most disturbing thing to think about.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No doubt about it.
How did we get on this topic?
I don't know. Distraction. Isn't it funny? Distraction is 35. Simulation is 35. And I just my last decoder is put out called The Zoo. The Zoo is 35 by the Scorpions. Big shout out to that band. Bro, I did a little 5-minute on the song, The Zoo. So The Zoo is 35. Distraction is 35. Simulation is 35, all in Chaldean numerology.
Wow. Yeah, that actually, that's something that I've been talking about lately a lot, that number 35 in like a very exoteric sense, because during last year, the year of the tiger, we saw Lionel Messi be like the god of sports because of winning the World Cup for Argentina. He was 35, and Lionel Messi was 35 years old, and also Andrew Tate was 35 at the same exact time, and he was getting all the prana on the main stage from, you know, the influencer side of things. And we saw his downfall, and I was just pretty interested in like where the Chinese zodiac was in alignment with all of it, and how the year of the tiger was kind of the repeat. So back in '86, Argentina won the World Cup with Diego Maradona, right?
Yep. He was a great footballer.
Yeah, so it's fascinating to see how once you discover these patterns, it'll make you a much better predictor. So 1986 was the year of the tiger. Diego Maradona won that World Cup for Argentina at the time. He was wearing number 10, just like Lionel Messi was wearing number 10 during the year of the tiger when he won. And there's some sort of big connection here. And that number 15 in Chaldean, coming back to tiger, now it's pretty obvious to me because alien equals 15 in Chaldean. And we saw the government during that year of the tiger, you know, really start to hammer in some of these things that were just conspiracy at one time. Now they were starting to become confirmed with like FBI documents and leaks and etc. So that is real big to like use that Chinese zodiac system, and that helped me a lot in being able to determine a lot of how things would go down in 2022. And now that I utilize that strategy for 2023, I mean, we're 2 for 2 so far. So it's been pretty amazing to see how you could predict events off of this kind of stuff, and a lot of it's very exoteric. It doesn't require so many different layers of looking deeper, although of course if you were to, you're gonna have probably even more success.
Yeah, man, Chinese blend that into that astrology system's pretty badass. I mean, talking about Chinese, and I mean 2024, man, come February, that's the year of the dragon, man. You know?
Yep.
And I got that peg to the sun in Leo and the age of Aquarius. So I don't know, man. 2024, man. You know, I thought 2023 was, and I still think 2023 is going to have some major disruptions. It's pretty quiet right now.
Well, I think it's important, you know, me and you have been talking about this since probably the first time we got together. Like, I just pay more attention to the Hebrew calendar. So it will effectively be the year 5784 Hebrew, but it'll still be our 2023.
Yep.
But that Rosh Hashanah transition, with just a couple of days prior to that, will be the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. I mean, big number, big connection. And right now, like, we have a lot of shit going on in finances, and that's what runs this realm right now is money, fiat money. So with 2024 being tied to this Jupiterian kind of essence, and we know this through that revealing of the logo of the Paris Olympics, just straight up showing you that Jupiter Zodiac logo, that is a huge giveaway to me that we're going to have change in finances. We're going to have change in the way we transact and communications. And I think what we're going to see is the replacement of a lot of our normal forms of communicating with perhaps things like ChatGPT and OpenAI. And we're not really even going to be certain anymore of like who's creating anymore. It's going to be more about like what program is creating for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's all going to go down in 2024 because it's already started to show up now. And the speed at which these technological advancements come is clear as day, that it's only the process expedites. So maybe we could riff a little bit on that because I would love to know some of your thoughts about 2024, but I wanted to confirm that for you, the Hebrew calendar nuance, because that's everything to me. We'll still be in 2023 during late September, October, November, December. That's my key time frame of some event to go down. Yep. So how will that bleed into 2024? Well, then that's kind of the next conversation. So what are some of your thoughts? I know we talked about the end of the year when me, you, and Jason came together, although we kind of touched on so many things. What are some of your theories of what's to come?
Well, remember we did our last podcast, which was talking about the financial collapse. We brought up the astrological maps. I still stand by that. That was obviously, I think we did talk about 2024 as well. But the 2023, which, we still have half a year to go. So there's a lot more to come. And yeah, I'm with you on the fall time, the harvest time being a major thing happening, which, the cyber attack, is that coming? What is that going to look like? I was looking at I don't watch a lot of mainstream stuff. I'm not interested. I try to detach from it because it's just, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's a movie when I watch it anyway. That's how I look at it now. But anyway, you see a lot of these people, some of these countries, they can't get their money out. The bank,
yeah.
And like for me here in Mexico, the peso is gaining on the dollar like crazy. Like the conversion rate, it's like, it's under 16 pesos. Yeah, when I first got to Mexico, it was like 22, 23. Now it's like under 16. And that's a big time telling story. And even going to the ATM and taking money out, the last few times, I can't take out the full amount I used to. Now, obviously, there could be various reasons why that is. But I just really feel like that could be kind of the precursor.
Oh, wow. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at like just basically the Argentinian peso versus dollars. And I'm looking at the Mexican peso versus dollars. And yeah, like the last big correction that the peso had was back in March 2020 during the C-19 crisis. But other than that, it's rose going all the way back to the highs of March 2016, which, to give people like an idea of where we were at that time, that was like with a couple months into Trump becoming president.
Yep.
That was a long time ago. Wow, you're right. And I'm glad you brought this up because most peso charts I look at literally, like, bro, I'm going to be super transparent with you right now. And I'm not just saying this to be dramatic, but like when I first looked at the Argentinian peso chart, I literally almost started crying because now as a technical analyst, I don't need to know the news. I could just look at charts and I could determine the state and condition of what society would be like. And then I started to look it up and I was just like, fuck me, man. Like, if you look at this chart, it is a nosedive. So we're talking hyperinflation it's free falling so quickly that it's obvious that they've been operating in a black market probably for like 2.5, going on 3 years now for a majority of their transactions. So these kind of countries are so corrupt and so poor for the most part that, yeah, they're doing a lot of black market stuff regardless. But when you look at this free falling effect, that's a sign that they're probably no longer even transacting in their own currency anymore. This is not good. But I think Mexico is kind of in a different position because of the drug, because of drugs. Like they make up all this bullshit about El Chapo and Zambada, and they do all this stuff to give you bread and circus. But we know it's the CIA allowing all of it. So there's that side of it, the commodities side of it. And we do have that relationship, and that relationship is extremely fucking profitable. right? So I could see that being a big factor, but wow, the Mexican peso from a technical perspective, it might break out another additional 18 per 20%. And
Hmm.
from a forex, from a foreign exchange perspective, to get a 20% fucking move on a currency is like, wow, that's a lot of volatility.
Hmm.
I don't want to confuse any of your listeners or you right now, but needless to say, I think this meteoric rise that we've seen in the peso might actually continue, and I don't say that lightly. It actually might be kind of a good thing comparatively to something like being in Colombia, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, it being living here, it doesn't help me. I mean, it obviously lowers everything
Well, it
because,
doesn't help you if you are earning in
yeah,
pesos,
if
but you're
I
not.
don't, I
You're
don't
earning
earn
in
it. Yeah,
dollars.
right, exactly.
Exactly.
But
So it's
it,
extremely beneficial comparatively to somebody who's earning in the local currency.
yep, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So
I'm not saying that you want to be making pesos.
no, definitely,
Like,
definitely
especially if
not.
you're used to the American economy like you are. That's no. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it's not as devastating to be in the peso as it is comparatively to a lot of other countries that are going through a clear hyperinflation.
for sure, for sure. Well, I mean, that's what I've been observing here. And so going back to the question, like, what are my thoughts on moving forward 2023, 2024? Well, I just feel that, 2024 is, again, 224 is tied to Ra and radium, and the Ra is Ra'el, and it's just it's all there, man. It's the sun, and this we could potentially have when I did my decode on Crypto Kingdom Part 1 and Part 2. In those were probably some of the most important decodes I have come out with in the past year, Crypto Kingdom Part 1 and Part 2. And I showed the connecting point between the kingdom of the Christ and theology through Christianity and Judaism with the age of Aquarius and the breaking down Revelation, which talks about not only the sea being no more, but the sun and moon will no longer be needed, it says. And when you look at the astrological map, you'll see that Leo the lion in the 5th house, ruled by the sun, is across from Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus. And this is the age that the Christ was talking about moving into, the age of Aquarius. Even Aquarius and Leo, when you bring the two together in numerology, that equals 36, just like the words Jesus Christ, that equals 36. So it was kind of a no-brainer. And so these big decodes I did, Crypto Kingdom Part 1 and Part 2, I kept them really short as well, to show people the significance of what's about to come. And of course, Ra being tied to the sun. So we have this Leo energy here. And, obviously the last age that included the flood, and this is where you get the mud floods. It was by water. The destruction was by water. Well, that's because the age of Pisces is a fish and water sign, and across the way from Pisces is Virgo, and that's obviously the Virgin and all that kind of stuff. But you're now moving into you're moving into a sun and electricity symbiotic relationship with Aquarius and Leo. And this is, to me, this is where either the sun's going to go out. I mean, I was just listening to Black Sabbath and their album, and they had a song called Children of the Sea. And it says that the final sign will be the sun going out. Now, I'm not saying it's true, right? It's just a band singing songs. But it says the final sign will be the sun going out. And I have said this for years. I've been saying this now, postulated the idea of the sun going out. And then in Revelation, the great, the most popular spell book on the world stage, it says right in Revelation that the sun and moon will no longer be needed. Like, I didn't write that. I'm just interpreting it and showing it through the astrological ages, because that's what theology is. And then you have the age of Aquarius, which is a Uranus. And Uranus, if you know what Uranus means, it's about being very eccentric, being extreme, and being very electrical. And this is where you're going to get the internet. This is where you're going to get cryptocurrency and Krypton, Krypton being the
Mhm.
36th element, Jesus Christ equals 36. The age of Krypton, which means crypto and secret
Yep.
and coming to light.
Mhm.
And this is what this is what Revelation's talking about. And this is why when I tell people Christ is not what you think it is. I know I get a lot of people that unsubscribe. That's totally fine. That's
Yeah.
totally cool, man. If it's not your truth, I'm not in it for the subscribers. You know, I mean, the idea of the Christ to me, love, justice, and all that, that's fine. But I think it's been butchered. But the real story about it is like, because like you would think, like if we just kind of use our logic and discernment, you would think that the people at the very top that have the knowledge, you would think they know what's coming. They're not in the dark, folks. They're not sitting there like a deer in the headlights, not knowing what's coming. They know what's coming. Trust me, they know what's coming. And the preparations that they're doing, whether they think they're trying to dupe you or this and that, they know what's coming. They know it. And it's not what you think it is. That's why people are going to be really caught off guard. I don't think people are really prepared. I don't think you can get prepared. I think you just got to be really detached. That's why I think being detached is the best way. That way you're not like, if your house burned down tomorrow, what kind of reaction would you get? What would you do? That's a really good exercise to think about. Like my crypto,
Yeah.
I don't look at my wallets. I barely ever pay any attention to them. Only when if somebody does a reading and they send it through crypto, that's the only time I have to look at it. Other than that, not even paying any attention to it. If I make out with it and I think you were talking about this in your last podcast, your last live last week. I was listening to you.
Mhm.
And I think you mentioned like there are going to be the people that get super wealthy and they go out and they just buy a million boats and cars and planes, and they never really do anything as a utopia. They don't really create anything on this reality. And then there are going to be some people that make money, earn a lot of money, and they change the world. You know, that would be the two types of people.
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of where I was going with that preparation concept about how like there will be an immense amount of confusion in 2024, but then that leads to clarity for some. There will be financial, destabilization near the end of this year into 2024, and that creates a lot of wealth for some people. So it's like just having this awareness and investing your attention on this kind of commitment to self to get yourself prepared, And part of that preparation is, well, if you're somebody who thinks you need more money or you deserve more money or you're coming into a lot of money because of an investment you made or whatever, then another practice is, well, what the fuck are you going to do with that money when you earn it? When you acquire the thing, what will you do to either squander it, maintenance it, or perhaps grow it? And for me, like, I've been doing that inner work now for so many years that I don't even worry about what the bank account says or anything anymore because I'm just serving my purpose.
Yeah.
And it was to break away from that whole, like, I'm going to buy this thing and that thing and that thing when I get the money. That's actually kind of operating under the law of detraction. You're already assuming you don't have something. So again, there's all these like, nuances here, but first of all, you have to be aware that you already are a trillionaire in something called consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And money is something that will arrive. You have to allow it to show up, though. And in order to accept it, you need to create streams for that currency to flow down. And if you don't put in any work and you just play the waiting game, well, then, yeah, you're going to be this person that might get some extra commas in your bank account. But then what are you going to do with it? And very few people can answer that when I ask them. Or when they do answer it, it's an extremely like liability, driven response.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, there you go. Like, you're just like the so-called elite that you talk shit about. Because when they have the Lambos and the yachts and all this stuff, you're the first one to say that they don't deserve that, or that's all they do, or they're lazy, or this. And I'm like, well, look at yourself. So again, like I think we need to kind of maybe not plan so much, but just have some sort of guideline of how we will take action given that new acquisition of currency.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all.
Yeah, I mean, last week when I listened, I think it was last week you were talking about this, and I was like, "Oh, this is some juicy stuff," because it's right. I mean, this is totally in my mindset, and this is, when I do readings for people, I show them, where their superstar status is, and then I say to them, I'm like, you're the star of the movie. Imagine you had cameras following you around. Would everybody want to tune into season 2? If you had season 1 out, I mean, or you had a pilot, would you get picked up? Would some kind of network pick you up? Your movie, your show, your reality. A lot of people, can you say that? Like, would it get picked up? Did you have enough to get people say, oh my God, season 2 of Logan or season 2 of Jordan, I'm going to watch that, right? Would it get picked up? And then what would you do during season 2 to make it really spicy, as you call it, right? And I tell people, imagine you had $1 million coming in every month right now. $1 million is coming in on August 1st. It's coming in. So you're going to prepare, man. You're going to be like, oh, I'm going to go on this vacation. I mean, a lot of people's minds will go to that simplistic me, which is totally fine. I'm not poo-pooing on that. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Go have fun and do that stuff. But I'm saying is, once you get settled in and you buy maybe you want to buy a house and get settled and you finally want to support your family, then what are you going to do? What are you going to build, man? Because now you have the ability to build something pretty massive. And then what is your agenda? That's where I think people's minds should be focused on moving forward. And this is why, for me, I turn the mainstream off. I'm not interested in what the Economic Forum's doing. People are like, don't you want to know? No, because why would I spend time? Because it's going to make, it's going to really, a lot of people, they worry. They'll have these ideas of like, oh my God, this is coming. Oh my God, when's it coming? When's it coming? This is going to happen. And that versus me, where I'm just like sitting here, like the ignorance is bliss kind of mentality. I'm living through it. And it's much more pleasurable to have that than to sit there and focus on the mainstream and it's like, oh shit, this could happen, that could happen. When's it going to happen? This is going to happen. That's not fun to me. I used to do it all the time. And I don't do it anymore. Now I'm just too busy creating and ignorance is bliss. That's really where a lot of me is at.
Yeah. And I don't blame you. Like, once you step away from that, you realize how draining that used to be.
Oh,
like it's soul sucking. Like, if there's anything that's a vampire, it's that type of reality state, and most live in it. And then when you speak that there's an other way of doing it, they don't understand because they haven't experienced it, the other form. And that's, I think, coming back to a core theme of where most of our chats go during these podcasts. It's like, you gotta take action. Like, there has to be some creative essence that flows from you, because whether you're a millionaire or you have nothing, like, that's something that'll never be taken away from you.
Yep.
Like, that feeling state of creativity is oof. Think about that, man, because I think I've exposed this before, and I'm okay with talking about it again and being vulnerable. How I've created a lot of the businesses, all of the businesses that I've made, including this one, out of a scarcity mindset. And it was because I didn't have any help. I didn't have like mommy to help me out. I didn't have daddy. I had zero security. So I needed to figure my shit out. And that was the only way. And could be like a little bit of the New Yorker in me, just being like, you gotta do it, you gotta take action. If you want this to change, it's on you. That's a little bit of like that upbringing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad for it, because it led to me taking the risk to decide to do everything that I've done, not just this YouTube channel, but things that came before this. And I now, like, if I was to create something new, it would not have that scarcity, kind of underlining note of like, okay, I'm worried that I won't be able to pay my bills. I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to put food on the table. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it breaks my heart when us creators go out and monetize what we do. And then I have people that are like, oh, well, it should be free. Truth is free. And I'm like, you want me to flip burgers with you at fucking McDonald's? Will that make you feel better? Will it make you feel better if we're washing dishes next to each other at a fucking Olive Garden? That's gonna make you feel better? Or would it be better if all the people in the truth community, if all the spiritual beings in this world got their money straight, and then ultimately you see what that would lead to? Then we could create these biodynamic farms and communities and thrive. And we don't need to fucking worry about what the World Economic Forum or the Federal Reserve is doing. But you're sitting here wanting shit for free because you're a keyboard warrior in the comments section of a YouTube video. See,
Yeah.
that's lack. And I can't teach people how to break. You can't really teach that, abundance mindset to that type of person. That's just a vampire. And a lot of people are like, they're not able to see this for what it is. So I'm like, if anybody should be monetizing what they do, it should be the people who have this inner standing, and we should all be supporting each other. This is going to break you free. So like, these are some of the fundamentals, and these are some of the basics. And I operated for a while in that scarcity mindset, and I created businesses in it for the right reasons, I guess, because I do need to eat, and I do need to take care of myself, and I do need to support some people. So, it is what it is. I'm not complaining, but I could at least admit that although it was successful, it was success out of scarcity. And now I would do it a little bit differently, but I'm not regretting it. I just mean if I was to create a new thing, go forward with a new project, I would have a whole different mindset. And that would make the risk feel like there is no risk, because I'd be completely present and I wouldn't be worried about the lack at all.
I think that's really important. I think you're spot on with that. Like the question I would have to all of you listening to this, what's your purpose? Like if you had to choose somebody in the world that inspires a purpose for you, who would that be? A person that comes to my mind is the founder of 5 Hour Energy. That guy, the Indian guy's name's Bhargava, I think, Manoj Bhargava or something. He has that billions change, and his purpose is technological innovation for poverty reduction. He took a lot of his money from 5 Hour Energy, and he built this huge warehouse, and he brought all these engineers there, and he got to have fun and build fun stuff and things that change the world. That is an inspiration to me, that idea. And then you're going to get some people, oh, he's not real, or he's faking it, or he's not that person. And you're going to always get somebody to go against it.
Yeah.
But the story is what I'm interested in, and that's, to me, like, what's your story? What's your purpose? You, the listener right now, if you had $1 million coming in every month, what would your life look like? Could you start to use your visualization in your mind? Like what I often say to people that I do readings for, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're going to say, I'm already grown up. And I would say, no, you're not. Because the average lifespan could go to 150. And that, for me, I'm 50 right now. That just puts me at just a third of my life. I have 2/3 left. That puts me as a teenager, at this stage of the game. So like, I don't know what it's going to look like moving forward, but what inspires you, and what would you do with all that cash coming in, or whatever it is that you end up gaining, real estate, stocks and bonds, cryptocurrency, whatever.
Yeah.
And are you willing to part with it if it goes to dust and not be affected by that? That's another big one.
Yeah, I think also people are unaware of how quickly you can transform your life. Like some people have been, I think, again, this comes back to the indoctrination and the programming, and I'll break it down very simply. It's school. We got taught that we need to go to this particular grade for, these set of grades for a couple of years, and then we go to high school for 4 years or whatever you attended, and then you go to college for 2 years or 4 years, depending on what degree you want. Like we've been constrained to these so-called achievements per timeline, and it is attached to years. And I know that's why they did that they did that on purpose. Like it's obvious to me that they did that because that's how you condition the mind to worrying so much about time and believing that if you've done something for more time, therefore it's like more virtue, or like you're better at it or whatever. But that's complete nonsense. Like we all need to kind of remove some of those things regarding time, because I think it's creating a lot of issues and a lot of limiting beliefs, and it's holding us back from being able to, really achieve some incredible success fairly quickly. Like there's a lot of overnight breakthroughs that a lot of us have made, and that's just cascaded into these results that you're seeing either through the decodes or through the live streams or whatever. And I could speak for both of us. Like I think that just coming across something like decoding probably opened up a whole new reality for you, right? And that wasn't was it really years and years and years for you to like get a grasp of the system to be able to articulate it and puts your unique touch on it? I mean, if you would have went to a school, sure, they would have made it a 3-year program.
Yeah.
But you remove that school thing and you just become present in it, and it is your purpose, and you get it done really quick, and it becomes like almost, like anything else that's intuitive.
Totally. Yeah, totally. It's fun when you live out your purpose, or at least it's fun to live out one of your purposes. I think many people have multiple. Like I'm a huge fan of shows and movies and stuff. I always have been. I get lost in some of these shows, and just like all of you do, right? And one of the shows, or one of the actual genres that I've always been interested in is crime and drama. And it must be the Scorpio. I have a lot of Scorpio energy in my chart. And seeing that now through, like, I'm watching this show called Chicago PD, and I'm a fan of it because it's really well done, and it shows you how life works through the yin yang. The cops go after the bad guys, but see those people that all have those jobs, the desk sergeant, the detectives, intelligence, just a normal on-duty police officer, they wouldn't have a job if you didn't have the bad guys. Like, they would all lose their jobs. They would all have to go out and find another job in the world to create.
Yep.
And so I'm a fan of like watching these kinds of things to really observe how this reality works and realize like I had said, I'm like, I bet to work at the CIA would be a pretty cool job. Like when I decoded the Central Intelligence Agency, I'd come out with a decode not too long ago on that. I had said to the presentation, I was like, I bet it would be a really cool job to have for me, because I have that kind of energy in my charts, and I'm just like, I think it'd be pretty cool to be a detective. And I'd even thought about it even at this stage of the game, knowing how I feel like I didn't know how this reality works. Like, you got to engage in the game. A lot of people say, well, how do you break free from the game? Does it mean you just do nothing? It's impossible to not engage in the game. Like, you got to engage. But imagine at this point right now, I'm Jordan. Imagine you go and sign up to work for the Central Intelligence Agency. Imagine you made that choice consciously. Like, oh, I'm going to go work for the CIA, and you go do the vetting process, and you get your ticket punched, and now you're going to go work for the CIA. Like, if you were to do that right now at this mindset that you have, what would life be like for you? And anybody out there listening, if you're somebody who you would consider you're woke up, like, I'm awake. Okay. Then you define that. And then I would say, well, what if you got a job at the CIA or a job at the police department as a detective, and you really like doing that? Like, you enjoy it. Does that mean that you're now asleep? Does that mean now you got to join some cult or some kind of group or organization? What does it mean when you go do that? Some of you that are listening, you are cops. You are working for an organization that's you get your paycheck comes from the state or government or taxpayers. Like, you're in the game, but you consider yourself awake. What does that look like for you?
Yeah.
And what are you doing with your life? You're doing your job. That's like, if you're a police officer, your job is to go in and work against the bad guys. That's what you signed up for. Somebody's got to do it. When you press 911 or whatever the emergency dial code is in your country, someone's going to answer. Well, that person gets paid a paycheck. Everybody serves a purpose. Everybody
you
is
hope
like
someone answers.
I mean, you hope somebody answers. Yeah. I mean, yeah, funny, right? But my point here is, like, where was I going with this? Is that no matter what you're doing in your life, you're serving a purpose. But if you don't feel like that's your purpose, like I get a lot of people, they want readings because there's a new chapter coming in. Maybe they quit their job or they got fired from their job. or they're ready to move on. I get a lot of that, right? And maybe you as a listener, you're there right now. You came on here looking for inspiration or looking for some kind of words of wisdom, or you just came in here, you're at a thirst for knowledge. But if you're not living out your purpose, what is your purpose? Do you know what it is? Like Jordan, if I ask you, like, Jordan, do you know what your purpose is? The answer is going to be yes or no. What would it be? Well, it's going to be yes, right? You know what your purpose is. You're doing it. Is that going to last forever? Maybe not. Maybe you'll move into something else, right? It's not set in stone, but if you're waking up and saying, I can't wait to start my day today, you're doing your purpose at that point in time. And I think a lot of people's lives are going to change in the next, going back to this 2023, 2024, and I'll hand it over to you. I think this is going to be a major change for a lot of people. But if you're scratching your head like, yeah, what is my purpose? That's a great place to be, because at least you're consciously aware of wanting to know what your purpose is. And then you can, sit there and do whatever it is to figure that out. It's a fun place to be.
Don't beat yourself up about it if you don't have an answer. Like that's really the issue, I think, with the idea of purpose. And like, you might remember back when me, you, and Jason, Archaics, got together and we asked all each other, like, what is the purpose of life?
Yeah.
And I'll say it again. There is no purpose. The purpose is life.
Yeah.
It is just being purely alive. And I think when I stopped associating purpose with a particular task or a particular thing that I do, or my job, or a timeline, I started to be much more present in the action, and I started to see that the purpose itself was the process. It's not the outcome. And too many people have been tricked into this idea that purpose is about the outcome, and it's not. Your purpose is to not fulfill a title. It's not to become a police officer. It's not to become a decoder. It's not to become a good mom. It should just be whatever it is that makes you feel vitality, and not the feeling of being drained of all of your prana. If you could find any set of tasks, even if you do them in the same day and you do them sometimes at the same time, and it feels like it's fulfilling you, there's a sense of fulfillment because you're actually able to be living off of your own prana instead of needing to suck it out of some other place, then boom, you did it. And most people are not. Most people are waking up and the first thing they're doing is they're thirsty for prana from the outside. They need to go on Twitter and look at what's going on. They need to turn on the TV and know what the weather is 14 states away. It's like, you live in Florida. You don't need to know what's going on in Minnesota. But this is the prana, like, kind of business model that's operating right now, and nobody even realizes it. If you're living in Florida and you're looking at the weather in North Dakota, then you're trying to get prana from something, and you're not even regarding where you stand. And I know you might not realize that, but again, it's coming back to this programming. It doesn't concern you what's going on in the weather somewhere else. And that's why so many people, like, they're having an issue with discovering what their purpose is, because they've been sold a lie. They've been sold their purpose as a job title, or I argue this a lot. And I teach this concept in my Expansion Mastermind course. We talked about it a while ago, but the idea here is that the purpose is process, and process is something that it's up to you to kind of be in a feeling state. Because if process to you feels draining, then it's never going to feel like purpose. But if the process feels like it's actually vitality and life force is like erupting from you, creative essence is, shining through you, then that is going to feel like fulfillment, and that's going to feel like you're serving your purpose. And I say the serving your purpose in like quotes, because again, even that is like a philosophical concept. So yeah, like, I think if we want to have purpose, then that makes you a machine. Like, artificial intelligence has a purpose. My microphone has a purpose. My microphone serves its purpose right now. It is able to transmit this, frequency over onto you and the rest of everyone who's tuning in. Humans don't have a purpose. And if you want to have one, then you're going to end up like the microphone, dead and serving a task. you will be used. You will not be, the tool itself. You will be either the weapon or the tool of somebody else's, utility. So I have a lot to say about this idea, and I think maybe it's a little bit counter to some of the common things we hear from like Eastern spiritualism, or perhaps even some, more light stuff. But I had to do a lot of work on that, and I really had to challenge what this concept of purpose was, to a point where it became like it almost sounds grim to some people. But I see purpose enough in life real time, to the point where it proves kind of like where I stand and why it's been so helpful for me and a lot of people that have made this slight change, because it's not taking people and saying, hey, question what you do now and start to dissect it and pick it apart to see if it makes you feel present or if it makes you feel fulfilled. Like, you don't want to have to think about this. This has very little to do with your mind, and it has more to do with just your state of beingness. And very few people are ever there, right? This is why the meditation apps and all of this stuff have become so popular over time, and the cold plunges and the breathing exercises and the pranayama and all these little tricks and strategies have become so sexy and marketable, because people can't realize this very basic thing. And it again comes back to some of the foundation of the issues with topics like purpose. So the last thing I'll say is, I really look at the concept of purpose more like I look at the person on the other line answering the phone when I call 911.
Interesting.
And I'm fucking lucky that they're there. But it's just tasks. It's all tasks. It's like demons. It's just task makers. I think if humans want to have purpose in that particular way, then it's going to be very self-destructive. And this is why you get so many people coming to you, Logan, or me. It's because they see that we're living in purpose, and that's really attractive to them. That makes them feel something. And that's what is the influence. And that's a beautiful thing. But I think really what you're going through, and I know you, Logan, enough to say this, and I even talked about it recently on my, I had a little group coaching session with some people in this expansion group coaching thing that I'm doing. And I was talking about you, and I was saying how when I met you, I felt that you're such a great example of somebody who's walking in their purpose. Like,
Nice.
It's obvious to me, like, you're a real one. And it really, like, what's the term? It made me optimistic about life again, meeting you.
Oh, thanks.
Because you were because you're like really, really immersed in what it is that you do. So the Logan that everyone gets on this Decode Your Reality, just really being present whilst doing it, is the same Logan that I got when I met you in person. So it was really it was inspirational, and it was great to see a real genuine example of somebody who walks in their purpose. And we live in a world where it's very hard to find examples of that. Like, it really is. So I think regardless of anything you might think that challenges what I think on the concept of purpose, or what anyone might think, maybe it might sound a little defeatist to some, but ultimately the intentions here are to come back to being present. And when I see people like, you, for example, when you're decoding and you're doing what you love to do, you zone out and you're there. And it's like you are so immersed in it, and it shines through you that, it's a special thing. So, I tip my hat to you, man, for being like that, because very few people lock that in. They don't. I mean, the timelessness behind when you're in purpose, because I'm sure you can start a decode at like 2 p.m. and look up at the clock and it could be 4 a.m. That's present, man. And that's something that's very, very rarely do we get to see examples of that.
Well, I appreciate all the amazing, loving words coming from you, because, for me, everything you said, I feel like I'm in my purpose. I'm in my flow, without any attachments, just doing what I love to do, waking up, doing what I love to do. But at the same time, it's a flip for me, because when I first met you, you reached out to me, and we connected instantly and automatically, and I just felt this bond with you. And it was such a strong bond. And even you had these knuckleheads saying we had a bromance going on, right? That's to show how like in tune you and I were with our connecting points of our mindsets and stuff like that. And I just thought it was really beautiful, right? Because when you find somebody like Jordan to become friends with and have the honor of doing that, because like you didn't have to be my friend, right? I mean, you could have just went the other way or whatever. But when you find someone in the story, in the context of having a friend like yourself, I put a lot of value on it because, you know, like when I look at you, I get super inspired because you're doing a lot of things I'm not doing. You know, like you do a lot of the things I'm not doing, and I'm like, damn, man, I could be doing that. I could, you know, getting this and getting that. And then I just look at like what I'm doing. I'm like, okay, I'm going to recenter myself. But at the same time, I get inspired by, you know, things that you're doing, which is that to me is the value of things. And this is where I joke around. I'm like, we're all just using each other, you know, like a friendship is like we use each other for certain things. Like when you hold someone's hand, if you have a partner, you're using your partner to hold their hand to get the feeling of that emotion. When you have sex with your partner, you're getting the feeling of that with your partner, right? So it's just kind of funny. I think I just put the funny twist on this. I think we all use one another, and it's just a fun thing, right? It's just a fun way to look at life. But it's
I call it collaboration, but yeah,
using each other. It's very inspiring, and you know what I love about you is you're so giving of yourself to people, and you know you're so way ahead of your time. I mean, so I put the contrast on there, and I really put a lot of value, and I'm like, man, someone to incarnate into a vessel and to be where you're at is just super inspiring to me, and that's why I'm happy to see what you're doing and the waves you're making, and all the people that you're you know helping have the Jefferson movement, which is, you know, moving on up. You're helping all these people move on up, and I think it's just great to see. So
yeah, I appreciate that, man. I mean, I think the thing that I had to break through at a very, very, very young age was a lot of the limiting stuff that was placed on me because of my mindset at the age that I was at, you know. And it followed me through every single, and like I don't really want to talk about age because it's fucking irrelevant to me now. I see how big of a trap it actually is. And I guess one of my few gifts that I'm cognizant of was the ability to not attach action taking and goal and accomplishment and where I want to be with time or age. I just thought, okay, I feel I need to do this, therefore I need to do it. And I think of what I need to do, like what my soul tells me I need to do. Like I feel like the way you feel, not you, but the person listening to this right now, the way you would feel about your next breath. Like if you held your breath for the next minute and a half, that's about how long it takes me to start getting uncomfortable not doing the thing that I want to do.
Well, that's a good
And
enough.
I've been like that since I was a child. I feels like I'm fucking suffocating. And then I used to have people in my life that would try to literally suffocate me. They'd be like, when I told them what I wanted to do or what I will do, they would be like, and we're going along with this analogy, they'd be like, keep holding your breath, kiddo. And I was like, fuck you guys. None of you are here to support this. So I need to do this a different way. And this is my biggest message to people out there, like making the joke when somebody asks my age and I'm like, I'm 400. And it makes everyone uncomfortable. It makes everyone laugh. It makes everyone cringe.
Yeah.
Well, that's not coming from a place of jokes. It's like literally coming from a place of somebody that like at the age of 5 was being told, I want you to suffocate.
Yeah.
And we tell children all the time, hold your breath, keep holding your breath, keep holding. But then we have the audacity to say, what do you want to be when you grow up? You see the problem here?
No, totally.
So I'm like, I had to deal with, we all dealt with it. I'm not alone. I guess I'm just revealing like the one gift I had about it all was to say, I'm not going to let these so-called grown-ups help me or suffocate me. Like I'm not gonna. And it was a wild life to have, where, you know, dealing with people and it always coming back to age.
Mhm.
And I think, like, the only thing that I could say about age is the only time it matters is when it has to deal with sexual partnerships. That's the only time it really matters. All right. But beyond that, when it deals with you and yourself and your vision and your purpose, like, remove the age, man, because it's a form of suffocation, essentially, if you're going to attach that onto what you want to do. I talked about this in that expansion mastermind course also, and maybe this will resonate with you. I said that purpose feels like it has a sense of urgency. Purpose is when you need to take a piss really badly.
The ones when you like can't
Okay.
stand up
And
straight.
the people who are successful, are the people that always feel like they're holding in a piss, and everyone in the fucking world is pushing the bathroom further and further away from them. So they develop a skill. They develop a skill of how to find bathrooms better. They develop a skill of how to hold it in longer, how to deal with the pain. You see this, like, analogy? How,
Oh no,
like,
totally, because that's what
there's a poetry behind it.
Dude, it's a massive piece of poetry here, because I get it. You're what, as they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's a very basic, simplified aspect. But what happened to you was you made lemonade out of it, right? It came into your life so you could be where you're at right now. Like you took that suffocation, you said, I'm not going to suffocate, so I'm going to actually do just the opposite. That's what people do.
Right.
People, I want to use this story, but I got to figure out how to say this without exposing.
Well, we've been conditioned to be so selfless that we will be told to suffocate, and we will literally listen like well-behaved slaves.
Yeah.
And I was born in a way where, like, that just wasn't possible for me. Like, you would have to literally hold me, strap me down to control me. Like, it never worked. So there's this hunger and this thirst, and, you know, we need to ask ourselves, who are the people in our lives right now that are literally suffocating us? And there's plenty of them. Like, we all have something going, and if you don't, then dope, then stop suffocating yourself. Because that's another piece to all of this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so no matter what age you are, no matter what you're going through with your health or with your mindset or with your partner or whatever drama is going on in anyone's life, like, you know, like, think about what we're talking about right now. It could resonate in a way where it, like, helps you break through some of this kind of these limiting beliefs. Like, I want you to realize that all of what you're going through right now, like, if it was to be turned into oxygen and you needed the opposite to become, you know, to get a breath of air again, you will really do whatever the fuck it takes to get that next breath of air. Like, if I pushed your head underwater and you were, you know, struggling, now turn that same concept into the idea of me needing to make some change in my life. But nobody wants to induce that pressure on themselves, because we've been, you know, kind of coddled into this comfort world of cheap and easy and free dopamine. So whenever we come across a challenge, instead of feeling it and embracing it, we numb it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing, man. If you just look at your life and you know, like people say, I'm not going to do what my parents did, or, you know, they're going to, but you see, if your parents didn't do that, you wouldn't be going against that and doing what you want to do. So there's utility in realizing that whatever it is that you don't want to do or not be like, that was necessarily put into your life on purpose, so you would go the opposite way and create that kind of fractal in reality. And I think people are starting to realize that, like if you grew up in an alcoholic family, like, and you saw the destructiveness of that, then you had the code of, like, I'm not going to do that. See, you may have become an alcoholic because you weren't raised in that family and you didn't see the destructiveness of it. So there's always that flip. There can be that, and this is going to be for everybody in your life. You're going to look at, like, what in your life causes you grief or destructiveness. It's going to promulgate you to do something about it. That's how a lot of this reality works. Somebody does something and then you will react off of that, but you'll do it to do something, to create something out of that. it's a big player, man, in everybody's reality.
Mm.
I was looking at your astrological chart. Remember I was telling you that in astrology there's what's called the Atman Karkarka, which is of the Vedic terminology for your planetary ruler. And this is for everybody. Your planetary ruler is going to be the planet that's at its highest degree in your chart, and it could be multiple. So I was looking at yours. It's interesting because you have Uranus and Neptune neck and neck, and those in sidereal astrology classically wouldn't be included. So the next one in line is going to be Venus, which is not only, the symbol for the Ankh and immortality and the eternal life, but it's love. And you kind of you so exuberate that. It's in Pisces, by the way, too. So in your 9th house, which is the Hermit. So like, it's so crazy to look at your chart. I love it in sidereal and see that you're in classic Vedic astrology. Your planetary ruler is Venus. Your Venus is in the 9th house, which is the Hermit, which means you came here to be a guru of love. And it's in Pisces, which is all about the body, right? Being a human being, kind of taking it back there. And you have Jupiter right across the way. You just have such a magnificent astrological chart, man. And plus your birthday, 316 and all that. We've already kind of joked around about that like a few times. Your birth time, et cetera, et cetera. And then if you go into the tropical, it's the sun. You actually move into the sun. The sun becomes your chart ruler. So got to look at both of them. But
yeah, wow.
Such a beautiful layer to your code. And I see it because I got to meet you and hang out with you in person and see the real McCoy versus just, the man behind the microphone. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so if anybody asks, like that's the sun in tropical is your planetary ruler. And then Venus and then Uranus, actually it'll be Uranus and Neptune really. Will be at planetary rulers if you really want to be technical about it. So I thought that was kind of really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that with me, man. And like, it's really interesting. Like, I know when I met you, I tried kind of grasping some of your skills in astrology and reading the charts so that I could go and apply it to, my work. And then I think there was some things that were going on probably January through March, and I had so many astrologers coming to me telling me like, you're wrong, the market's going to go down more now, like because of all this astrology stuff. And pretty much from the first day of the year, January 1st, the market started moving in the opposite. It started moving up, and it was kind of in line with what I was seeing to occur, and it's continued until this month of July. And I just think that like, whatever the markers are that are tied to people to utilize for financial astrology, it's clearly not working. And I don't think it works at all, whatever systems are commonly being taught, comparatively to like my system, for instance, which is a mixture of doing technical analysis and actually decoding tied back to a mythology connected to whatever asset it is, or in my case, a particular cryptocurrency. That system has been way more helpful for me. And when I started trying to include some of these astrological things, I noticed that perhaps the reason why it's not working so well for a lot of people is because they don't know anything about the symbolism or the mythology behind these, these deities or these planets or whatever you want to call them. And somebody like you that has an immense amount of knowledge and wisdom tied to all of this stuff, like I know that you don't focus on financial predictions at all with the charts, so of course I'm not speaking on you, but it was interesting to hear some of your thoughts on what you would see based off of whatever I would share with you. And again, like I still have yet to find any information that solidifies market direction or anything regarding astrology, any more than something like the Shemitah cycle. or Rosh Hashanah, or just the typical fiscal year coming to an end, like Q4 and Q1. Like very exoteric shit is a way better determining factor of market movement, like what the Federal Reserve is up to, than using something like these complex astrology charts. So it'd be like, it would just be so cool for somebody like you to dedicate some time into like analyzing maybe like the stock market over the past 100 years and seeing all the big crashes and just seeing what was going on in the planets to come up with a pattern, you know, and then that pattern can now be utilized. I've done this work with my own strategies and I've come up with my own conclusions. But like, I think for you, it would be such a game changer because I believe you would be able to find a system and success in this, as opposed to I've yet to see it at all in any other situation. And if anything, whenever people are considered good financial astrologers, they have no numbers to share with you because they have no technical understanding. So they're like, well, the market will move up, the market will move down. But like, it's like, well, where will it go to? You know, like when you're talking about Bitcoin, it goes up and down every single minute, every single day, every single, week of every single year. There is no pause. So it's not really helpful to say it will go up or down. That's not going to solve the problem here. People need to know where will it go down to and where will it go up to, and furthermore, like how could you benefit off of this awareness? And you know, I feel like that would be something interesting to see your take if like you were able to determine patterns. Like, of course, we have the typical like Mercury stationed retrograde, or, you know, you're aware of when Pluto is in Aquarius and like all of this. A lot of it's typically tropical is what you hear from these financial astrologers. But for you, with your awareness, like I would be really excited if you came out with something that had shown some proof on the charts of why we're making the certain moves that we make at certain times, etc.
Yeah, you know, I think, I mean, we've touched on it a little bit. I haven't really, I don't think I've shown the patterns because I haven't looked at the market fall and the market rise like you have. I'm not doing the TA like you are. If I had an exercise to do, if like somebody gave me like if you were to give me dates, like look at these dates wrapped up in the past 100 years, and I would look at them. Cause I mean, I'm now using a lot of astrology for a lot of my decodes. I'm including a lot of astrology charts showing, like I'm decoding, like I got CERN coming out. It's going to be a short one. The formation of CERN, you can clearly see it in the astrological chart, what the whole dedication and the whole basis of the energy was through in and throughout on CERN and what they're doing, which, you know, to me, they're having sex with the quantum, with the Large Hadron Collider. But dude, if you want to throw some dates at me, not tonight, but if you have some dates,
yeah, no,
I would definitely look.
Absolutely.
I would definitely take a look at them, and I got the cards down pat. You know, I got the playing.
Yeah,
cards
I think the
pat.
basic thing would be like to look at all of the famous stock market crashes, which you wouldn't even need that many, maybe only like 6 or 7.
Yep.
And then look at all the trend reversal moments. So I could like tell you those two. It could be about like 10 to 12 different dates.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem here, though, is like because of fiat currency just being infinitely printable and not backed by shit, the market's always been moving up. Like if you zoom out of any chart, but it's the same thing because everything inflates over time. You know, like a gallon of milk when your parents were born was like what, a penny?
Yeah.
And that's the case for every commodity, every stock, every, you know, anything. It's all speculation. Everything, even real tangible stuff is speculation. Even necessities like water. The price of water has gone up dramatically in the course of the past 10 years.
Right.
I'm just going to take a sip of water real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'll be totally up for any kind of, and those of you that are looking at astrological maps, maybe on some of the stuff Jordan talked about, you know, if you want to get in on this too. I mean, I'm looking at both, you know, Vedic and tropical, the 23 to 24 degree markers forwards or backwards, depending on what system you use. And then overlaying the Chinese on top of that, that gives you another layer to look at, knowing what year you're moving into. Obviously, moving into 2024, you know, the Chinese and the dragon. You know, the Chinese is different because I layer personally, I put the dragon in the sign of Leo, but if you really look at Chinese astrology, the year of the rat is actually starting off in the wintertime, not the springtime. So it would really move it, I think, into Capricorn. I think Capricorn becomes the rat if you use it with their ways and their methodologies, but I don't. I take the rat and I move it to the sign of Aries. And that's how I overlay the Chinese. But the Chinese is a beautiful system in itself. Then I got introduced to this other system called Bazi, which is like a subsidiary of Chinese astrology, if you will. And it's pretty fascinating. I had a gentleman, actually, I got to do a podcast with him. I haven't reached out to him. I have to get back to him. His name's Johnny. He gave me like a really good introduction to mine, and it was super accurate. And it's just based on the pillars, basically meaning the main pillars of your birthday, your month, your day, it'll be 19, which will be a pillar. And then whenever year you were born, these are all for the 4 main pillars. And then there's other things in there as well. You could take that and bolt that on and make it even more complicated. But I think that astrology is really cool. And the cards to me are so important. The playing cards are just so important. I mean, look at your birth card, dude. 7 of diamonds, 33rd card in the deck, talking about dealing with a card that's, it's an ascension card. So like the work you do and the value of your work, you're leveling people up through DNA activation upgrades. It's not for everybody, right? If everybody was to just listen to you, it would be, the world wouldn't have variety. Variety is what keeps this world going. But your 33rd card in the deck, you only have the 2 cards. You got the 7 of diamonds and the 9 of hearts. And I mean, this is Saturn, Venus energy. That's what blocks they sit in. So, we would look at those positions as well. And those are pretty big markers. I mean, your 7th house is Capricorn. So this is a pretty big marker for you. Your Venus is in your 9th house. So these are really big markers for you. And I can take this and move it into the markets, I'm sure, and look at them. And as much time as we spent, I didn't get into the deep stuff of what you're asking, though.
No. I mean, I know it's kind of just something I laid on you there. It's a lot because I've had a lot of pushback on some of my ideas that I've shared publicly about like my big vision for the market. And I get an astrologer once in a while who just comes out of nowhere and they're like trying to tell me I'm wrong. And I'm like, first of all, I don't go around telling anyone that they're wrong. So step 1, you're already kind of like failing in life. If you're somebody who feels the need to go around and tell people that they're wrong, it's time to grow up. Yeah. Like you're like a sign holder outside of the Westboro Baptist Church telling people that God hates gay people or whatever. Like that's the type of energy you have. You get to be God and determine who's right and wrong. It's like that's such a sad existence to have.
Yeah.
And it sucks when I see it from astrologers because I'm like, you could bring a lot to the table, you guys, but there's this pompous kind of energy that comes from some of these people, and they lack the awareness of mythology, and that's sad because it's like all of your study has zero foundation, really. It only has what you've learned from other astrologers, but there's a much deeper story here. And it's not esoteric at all. Like I haven't gotten around to fully listening to the audiobook yet, but I know even Manly P. Hall put out like a thing on Greek and Roman mythology.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is like coming to you from like Masons too. Like they're not like keeping secrets here about the influence that Greek and Roman mythology has on this world from every corner that you look, whether it be from the financial system to the way laws are implemented to the whole process, the bread and circus of theater that we get with entertainment, Hollywood, sports. It's all coming from the mythology.
Of course. I mean, the Olympian is, the word
Exactly.
Olympian is 30 in numerology, which is tied to demiurge, Olympian.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So my bigger point here is that like for all the astrologers out there, first of all, be collaborative, because whether you study tropical or sidereal or whatever, like be collaborative. It's important that all of us decoders have that energy. Stop trying to tell people who's right and wrong. That doesn't really do anything for anyone. Share your truth, but don't try to like squash and put a fire on somebody else's. And right there, we'll have way more growth. But because I've been dealt with so much of that energy in my time being the type of decoder that I am, and with the type of astrology stuff that I get into, which I suppose comes from more the mythological angle, which I feel has the most significance. Yeah, so it's just been an interesting thing. And I think for somebody like you that has so much talent and being able to read these charts in different forms and combine all these systems, and somebody who really enjoys doing it, you could be like a force of nature, a real big force to the people in the financial side of things, trying to determine why things go the way they go, and then to pattern that out and then see where we could forecast things. I mean, all I have is my system, which basically tells me that we operate on a 4-year cycle, within a 7-year cycle, within a 49-year cycle, within a 70-year cycle. And we're coming up on a very critical 100-year cycle in about, 5 years, 6 years, which is the 100-year cycle of the Great Depression. And I always look to the 1 year before as the key. So it's 99 years. And as you transition into that 100, that's a big, step, because you're just going back to the one again. So yeah, like we're in a time right now that if we can be aware of what was going on leading into the Great Depression and the type of mania, the mindset and all of that stuff, regardless of the difference in technology and the difference in the world order and any of that, like to just see what was happening, like what was going on at the transition between Great Britain losing purchasing power in the pound and then losing world reserve status to the US dollar. If we study that and then look at the astrology at that time, then we could perhaps be a little bit better at determining when the US dollar would lose its reserve status and who would possibly come in and take over. But when I'm just hearing people like throw out financial jargon or some whatever stuff about the planets and making these broad kind of predictions without tying it back to pretty much of anything, it's unfortunate, because I'm like, well, what is this based in?
Yeah.
It has to be based in something else cyclically that's gone down, and it has to be tied to a couple of other events. Otherwise, we're kind of left with this waiting game a lot of the time, I think. So like, I don't know, I think me and you could definitely come up with some really incredible collaborations behind determining how 2024 will go financially, and maybe take it from there and see what that influences for people.
No, totally, man. I mean, I'm guilty of debating and, like trying to prove people wrong in my days. I mean, it's been a challenge over all these years trying to move away from that. And it even, it's challenging with astrology because, for me, when I look up at the map of astronomy, you base the planets, and, right now, there are people that are forecasting Pluto being in Aquarius, and that's tropical astrology. But if you go to the real map of the stars, well, Pluto's in Capricorn right now, and it will be there till 2039. And so then people will say, that's where you're going to get the debate, right? And people will say, well, which is it? Well, it's always going to be both, because the ideas make them real. And then they're both going to have their say, because you can look at a chart of, let's say, September 11th, and you can look at tropical and you can look at sidereal, and they're both going to tell you the story. It's just like a religion. It's going to be like Christianity and Judaism. It's the same religion, just packaged differently. That's all it is.
Right.
Same thing, same story, just got a little different bow on it, may have some different ribbon, but it's going to all lead to the same thing. And that's the beauty of astrology. When you become a fan of astrology and you can look at these systems, including Chinese, they're all the same story telling you in a different package is really what it looks like. So it's a beautiful thing.
That's really really the whole thing is like, there's this natural desire for anyone who comes across truth where we feel like we found it, like we feel like we now hold the keys.
Yeah.
So that's where this argumentative side comes from us, because we were like, well, I know something that you don't, or you don't agree with the thing that I know. And it becomes this like egotistical, weird, thing. And we're all guilty of it, especially people who are in these types of communities that are seeking truth. Because when you seek, then you have to battle with all the bullshit, And I get it, man. I get where it's at. I deal with it quite a bit with my stance on reality, because perhaps a lot of people come to my channel from, the other bigger Gematria channel, and I'm doing my best to swat off those mosquitoes, and to hear somebody like myself who's saying don't play the victim and don't play the blame game and use this decoding system for what it is, and how when you apply it to your own life, you could prove without a shadow of a doubt that there wasn't some Illuminati controlling the day your mother gave birth to you,
Right.
or the day that you got your raise at work, or the day your child was born. I mean, it happens to me all the time, where I prove time and time again that there is no nefarious group of people that are controlling every single little nuance of our realities. It just isn't. And if that's the case, then it can't be that way at the highest levels either. Now, are there big events that receive a ton of prana it would be advantageous for the global elite to, kind of push in a particular direction? Yes. But this is where I think the mythology is very helpful for everyone, because you see that there's a chess game of mythology where they always want you to have like a good guy and a bad guy. They want you to have like the underdog. They like the hero story, etc. So knowing the mythology and then having this awareness that, yes, the biggest football game of the year is scripted. Like every single game of the season, no. Who are the refs bought out? Yes. Like the refs are essentially your equivocal to a judge at a court. That's all they are. Like that's been known for a long time. Like the mafia has been controlling games for a long time. Like this is not new. People need to be aware that, yes, when it revolves around a lot of money, a lot of gambling, it's a lot of opportunity. And in this day and age where you have TVs and screens in everyone's pocket, it's very advantageous to receive a lot of your prana and to utilize that currency, which is an even more powerful form of currency than your money. Like people need to remember that the global elite don't need your money. They print money for themselves, backed by nothing. The Federal Reserve can walk over to their computer with a keystroke and $1 trillion is created out of nothingness. They use a currency that you don't even use, reserve notes. We don't get to use that. Commercial banks aren't even allowed to transact in that. They're only allowed to do that with the central bank. Isn't that interesting? That people think that they're stealing your tax money. They're not stealing your tax money. They don't even need it.
Yeah.
They have a system of just printing what they need on command to their bloodline, and it's always been that way. And that's kind of getting people to realize that it's really what this tax thing about is currency. It's about energy. It's about, are you willing to continue on this system of belief? And clearly we are, globally.
Yep.
That's all that really matters. So anyways, to get back to the utility of all of this, it's like, we as a community of decoders, no matter what our systems are, I hope that we get to a day where we stop playing the victim and we stop blaming people with this gnosis of the code. I mean, my last quick example for you that proves this is I believe it was yesterday, I broke 62,000 subscribers. And I only gave this my prana at the time because I was really unable to break that number. And typically it's like every month I get about 1,500 new subscribers. And for whatever reason, when I hit 61K, it dropped off all the way down to 200 to 300 on average for months.
Wow, that's weird.
That's never happened to me before. And
yeah, that's weird.
I made the post in my Discord not to be like, hey, we hit 62K, so not any of that. It was to actually just point out the code, right? So my birthday this year in double-digit date numerology, which is like my favorite form of date numerology, is 62. It's 3 plus 16 plus 20 plus 23 equals 62. My first name in basic English ordinal gematria, Jordan, is 62. Then if you take from my last birthday, which was on a 62 date numerology, 6 months and 2 days later is the end of this Jubilee, the day after Rosh Hashanah is completed in the new year. And that's also 26 weeks, which is the mirror of that. And that is also the day before the 262nd day of this year, the palindrome of 26 and 62. And the date numerology of that date is 26, standard date numerology, September 19th. So it's just really interesting how this was all coded into that number 62 and 26. And I'm like, well, there you go. Like, I was faced with that, and it's showing up in the thing that I've been dedicating the most of my energy to, which is this work, this Waters Above thing. I've clearly been committed to this more than anything else in my life lately. So now that I'm seeing this code playing through it, it does not surprise me. And also, I'm not going to point a finger at YouTube and be like, they're censoring me.
They're shadow banning.
This is on. Yeah. No, this is my code. This is my code. And like, I made a kind of a joke statement afterwards. I'm like, watch, by next month, it's going to go right back to normal, like right back to like 63,500 or whatever, because it's like these obstacles that are showing up in your life. If you're kind of curious, why are they coming up? That's where the code comes in.
Yep.
For you on the individual level. And I know you know this, Logan, of course, but I'm sharing with my basic system. It's very basic compared to yours. Yours is like, the 3 Michelin star restaurant version of what I just shared. Well, I'm like, that was like McDonald's level compared to what you do.
The basic level is all you need to know, though, really. As long as
that's what I was saying.
That's
precisely. That's what I was saying earlier about the whole thing about my decoding system is I don't need all these other bells and whistles. It's gotten me this far, and if it's not broken, why try to fix something? So the thing is that I've started to become more sovereign through the code. I no longer play this pointing fingers at YouTube or pointing fingers at the Jesuits or pointing fingers at the Federal Reserve. I don't care to do that now, because I'm like, everything that's happening, these booms and busts of energy in my life in any currency, whether that's friends, money, subscribers on YouTube, opportunities, whatever it is, it's all coded there pretty in our faces, and we just need to know some of the basics, So that's a motivator for both me and you. I know that I'm working on this new decoding mastermind, and you're working on your course, which I can't wait for that. Me and you are collaborating on some things. We're not going to talk about that just yet until we have something to actually share. But, this has been the motivator for me, because I'm like, I see now that if I was to share a basic system that allows people to see that there is no elite pulling the woolly over your eyes, and that it's always been there right in front of your face, you just lack the eye to see it. Well, here's the clarity. Like, by the time you're done with this course, you will have the sight, and then you'll be done pointing a fucking finger, and you'll take personal responsibility, and you'll start to really change your life as it's changed mine. Like, when I came across this code, man, it was life altering.
Yep.
And it was really sad, actually, that I was learning some of the fundamentals at the time, at least from the Gematria perspective, from a group of people that were really playing this blame game. And it's toxic, and I hope that people see through that, and they become empowered by it, and don't confuse truth and this whole blame game thing with you being empowered, because that's false. If you're going about life and you're pointing fingers at other people and you're being the victim, even if you're learning so-called truth, like, it's not benefiting you spiritually.
Well, it's all a matter of what group you want to belong to, or at least what truth you're going to adopt. Like I often say in my podcast, if we were to sit down with you individually and lay out all your truths on the table, do you think you have 100% right? When it comes to 1 + 1 = 2, do you think your truths are 100% right? Everything you've adopted as your belief is really how it works? No. I can authentically say, I know if I laid all my truths out, I know I got some errors in there when it comes to having errors. I know I don't have it all figured out. That's the pursuit of trying to get it right? In the sense of getting it right. There is no getting it right. That's the contradiction. There is no getting it right. It's just the journey of going out and trying to find out what is right, but you're never going to get it right, man. You're either going to be in tune or you're going to be out of tune. That's really what it is. It's always going to be the yin yang. I like to look at the numbers, from the basic context, because that's really where it's at. I like looking, and I've done this with your channel for a long time. I've looked at, like, you were stuck on 61. Well, 61's tied to Prometheus and light and the movie and the golden ratio. And I feel like these numbers, they stay intact And I've observed it through my own channel. I've been following my numbers and seeing how many videos I got pumped out. I'm at like, I'm looking at like, how many videos do I have? And then what prime number is that connected to? And then how many subscribers do I have? And what prime number is that connected to? So right now, you were at 61,000. You were the 18th prime number. Well, you've moved into 62, and that moves you into the next prime number, which is prime number 67. And that means you're moving into the 19th area. So all the videos from 62,000, subscribers from 62 to 67,000 are all going to be on the 19th prime number frequency. And 19 is tied to the sun, right? It's tied to, and this is a big marker for you and you and everybody that's following you and taking your work and doing your courses. This is all you being into it. 67, dude, is like, that's the ho, that's holmium, baby. That's like the most magnetic element on the periodic table. So I'm telling you, like from my observations, your channel from 62,000 subscribers all the way to 67,000 will be like the sun, man. Very magnetic, very prophetic, being a prophet. I mean, I look at you as that. I look at you as like a prophet. You know, and I know some people that don't like you because I get thumbs down on a video. That's fine. I get the people that put the thumbs down. That's going to happen. That's totally cool. That's going to be energy that is whatever. But people that put the thumbs down are going to be like, oh God, yeah, Jordan's a prophet. But folks, like, that's how I see it. Like I look at the good in you. Like when I look at somebody, I strive to look at the good in them. Right. And that's gotten me like being naive a little bit sometimes. Sometimes I've gotten burned.
Yeah.
Sense of getting burned. But I would never change that in the way I look at things, because isn't that what we're supposed to do? Like I'm looking at the person who people would look at and say, oh, they're this and that. And I still see the value. I still see the good, because they serve no matter what, everybody serves a purpose in this reality, in this zoo that we live in, the circus.
Yeah.
Everybody serves that purpose. So anyway, getting back to what I was saying, I don't know what your total, let me see how many, does it say how many videos you got? Let me see.
Well, you know, it's funny because
235.
Before, when you were getting going on this, it made me think, well, let me go back to my first video and see when it was posted. And it was posted on March 2nd, 2021. March 2nd is the first day of the year. So that's your 61. Like,
yeah.
Into
I told you. It was March 2nd, right? The first video you ever posted?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Eight of Spades
wild,
day.
Man.
That's the Eight of Spades card, was my birth card. I think I had pointed that out to you. And then your channel was created on, if you're somebody who's a decoder and you got a YouTube channel, when did you create your YouTube channel? That's a marker for you.
Yeah.
So
with me, it's not really making any sense, because it says like 2016, and it was because I was using, I probably had like 4 different YouTube accounts, and this was the one that I decided to convert into the YouTube channel. But it wasn't, my channel effectively started in March of 2021.
Yeah, I mean, the same with me. You're going to have different markers in your life, but this is your main bread and butter channel here. So July 21st is the marker for you on when this channel started, and it's the 202nd, 203rd day of the year. These are big markers, man. 202, like that's a big marker, and it's the 7 of clubs card, which is card number 20, and 71 is the 20th prime number, and you bring those two together and you have, it's light. It's just all like your whole life. Like you have the Jesus Christ 316, you got, and the Lucifer, the light bringer, Jesus, the light of the world. Like your sun is your planetary ruler in your tropical. That's your crown. These are all markers for you. The Phoenix rising. These are all big time markers for you. And it's really the 7 of clubs, the 7 of wands is a card of owning your shit. Like owning your space and not backing, like just for fun, right? Like Zach Hubbard, his birth card is the 7 of clubs. Same as the day you founded your Waters Above Your main channel. That's the funny thing about it is, right, is that you're completely polar opposites, because there's always going to be that liability asset yin yang. He's really that guy who does the defend. It's the defending what mattered, like defending. Like you don't do that. You're all about standing in your truth. He tries to defend it. And when he doesn't get it, he lashes out. That's just, maybe he's going to change his ways. I don't know. I mean, I know he's a good guy. Like, I'm sure he has friends that say, oh, he's a great guy. I could probably see the good in him, but unfortunately, he's just been, and I don't want to go down that hole because I don't want to,
Yeah.
he's a guy, he's doing his job. That's totally fine. And I respect that because he's a content creator and all that kind of stuff. Just his behavior, I'm just not a fan of. But anyway, I just think it's interesting that, he has that 7 of clubs. So do you, as your join date on I look at everything on YouTube. I look at everything that I can. Right now you got 235 videos. That's tied to the 50-second prime number. You're moving into a big one, dude. When you hit 241 videos, you got 5 more videos to go and you'll hit 241. That's the 53rd prime number, dude. That's a number tied to Christ, man. So the Christ to me is an explosive energy of light. It's a really light, it's a very it's an energy, obviously, and it's in a battery, it's the anode. That's our reality is based on the anode and the cathode. The anode is the giver, which is the oxidizer, and then the cathode is the reduction, the receiver. They both give off the electrons, right? The battery, anode, cathode. Anode is Jesus, cathode is Lucifer. One's a giver, one's a taker. Black sun, white sun, however you want to look at it. That's the whole context of our reality, is yin yang, and that's what you're moving towards. You're moving towards a big. I would anticipate you when you hit 241 videos, you got 5 more to go. I would say, or 6 more to go. Once you hit that, I think your channel may grow rapidly. I think you're gonna have a big change coming for you. 241 videos when you hit that.
I've already had a lot of change, so
I mean, you're at 62.1 right now. That's the permutation of the 126. That's the IAM. That's iodine. So that's a big marker right now as we speak, as I look at your channel.
Well, it's funny, like something that you hear a lot, and I'm sure you've heard it too, just because we've all gone through the motions of the growth of this social media platform that we've committed to. And people say that as you grow, you're going to sell out, right? You've heard this before.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so funny because it's like, as my channel grows, it's like we get spicier and spicier, and the videos get longer and they get more like philosophical and they get like weirder. And, I could see that it's been an interesting journey for me because, like I was saying earlier, like at a young age, I just can't be controlled. So it's like you can grow and you can remove the ceiling of limitations above you without selling out, without conforming, without doing what the people want. Focus more on doing what you want. And by doing that and being genuine in the process, by vibrating at that frequency, you're going to align with and resonate with people who are matching that frequency. And that's how all relationships should work. You should never be agreeable to get a partner or be agreeable to get a supporter. Like, you must be you must be true. And yeah, it's been an interesting ride going through this growth. And I also feel for myself, like, we're just getting started, both of us. Your channel is still kind of like, think about how much opportunity is out there, man. And people have said this to me a couple times, and I think this is a really interesting thing for us to talk about really quickly, about how everyone is learning about decoding now. Like, everyone knows about gematria, so it's not going to work anymore. And I'm like, first of all, it never worked. It's not about it working. It's about that's the first misconception. Number 2 is, if there is 8 billion people on the planet, if you were to take Zach's channel, my channel, your channel, and also there's so many other great decoders out there. We could include the Santoses and the Archaics and all the people that me and you have collaborated with. There's plenty, and I don't want to leave anyone out.
There's a lot of great decoders out there.
Yeah, and it's just up to me and my lack of consuming content, really. So I'm not the guy to name the list, but the point is that even if you added up 100 of us decoders, the most popular ones by view count, bro, we're nothing. We're like the state of Rhode Island.
Yep.
Probably, like Wyoming has more people than all of our following combined. Yeah. And then out of that following, how much of them are active? How much actually consume the videos we put out? Probably not even a quarter of those people, to be
Yep.
completely honest.
Yep.
So let's just get real here, man. Decoding at this level is so niche and really unknown, and we have so much opportunity. So the fact that I'm at 60,000 or whatever, like I don't really look at these numbers until I notice something, and that was what happened with me the other day with this whole 62 connection. And all it did for me was again confirm that there's something at work here that is beyond me, and it's just playing through me. And I'm actually, and you know, I've been like this for a while, but I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for stalling out when I need to, and I'm grateful for the growth when it happens. Like no matter how it shows up, I'm not looking at as good or bad or any more positive or negative. It's just, it is what it is. And if there's a viral video that shows up, or if my channel goes down to 100 new subs every month, it's like none of that really serves me. It's all about continuing to take action and how I feel.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, dude, your
And
job
I
is
see that some people do feel better playing that game of like defending what they think is right.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's all stages in life. It's all fractals. All that matters is where you're at this stage of the game. And if you're listening to this podcast, then I would imagine you, you follow my research, Jordan's or both of ours, and you know the other great decoders out there that we have collaborated with over these years. But Jordan, you know, man, I just want to say, looking at your chart, looking at your planetary rulers here, Uranus and Neptune, I mean, they're in your house of legacy. So like, I see a legacy for you, which I see that you're doing it. You know, Uranus, I mean, Neptune is right on top of Uranus. There's 27 degrees, 27 is currency. They're right inside the 21st Nakshatra card, Uttara Ashada, which is the undefeated one. 21 is the world card. It's in the sign of Sagittarius, which is the hermit, which is the wise one. And, you know, to me, Neptune, Poseidon runs the screenplay, and Uranus is you run us, right? So to me, they kind of work in unison together. And you're here to leave a legacy behind, bro. For sure. I mean, your moon's right there and conjunct with all this. So your emotions are heavily tied to your vision and your wisdom. And then your Rahu's in your 18th nakshatra, and 18 is Jesus and Christ, both in numerology. So these are small little things. And, you know, your birthday is 3/16. I mean, come on. You know, these are just such funny pieces of your code. Your Venus is in your 27th nakshatra, Ravati, which is, you know, all about the highest levels of spirituality. And then your sun is in the 25th, and crypto equals 25. And your sun's there.
You know, one of the things I was thinking about recently was the idea of having our ideas that we share outlive us. Okay. And how that seems to be what I guess people would consider a legacy, like where your ideas or what you created, like your product or your whatever, did it outlive you? And meaning have other people adopted it and started passing it on and utilizing it. And I was listening to, I think it was Jordan it was one of these YouTube shorts, you know, these like 10-second clips or whatever. And it was a little video that was sent to me by a friend, and it was Jordan Peterson talking to Lex Fridman. And I'm going to assume most people out there know these two individuals. So to save time, Jordan Peterson was saying, and he said something that really fucking resonated with me. He said that you must learn to let your ideas die so that you can live forever. And that fucking shook me up, because I knew exactly what he meant. And I think that some people in like the spiritual communities would get that mixed up, and they would think that like that's egoic and that has to deal with like being self-centered and like thinking that. But truthfully, what I've learned is, as we're alive, like right now, it is the ego that makes us hold on to ideas even when they don't actually serve us anymore. And this is where you get that like tyrannical king type behavior, this like controlling. And when you see other people that don't agree with your vision or your idea, you need to send them to fucking the gulags. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
But that's seriously
guilty of that sometimes.
So this idea of living in a reality where you so-called defend the idea, that to me is a behavior that like we could all work at, because I think that in order for you to be eternal as a soul, you need to do this physical experience pure. You need to go through the purity process in the physical. You need to remind yourself consistently that this is a simulation, and that everything that's happening to your body and to your family and to all the things you think you own, like we talked about earlier, are all just part of this experience. And you're here to literally taste the rainbow. You're here to have all of the experiences. Like, that's why you came here. That's why you chose to be here. So I really love this idea of let your ideas die so that you could live forever, because how many of us have performed atrocities on the world, that we've even sometimes supported as a community because of an idea. You could think about the C19 scam. How much negative, bro, because of that idea not dying, because of that idea being promoted to the priority of like how we all go about life, we were locking old people in fucking essentially camps, and they can never even see their grandkids again or their own kids because of a virus. And they died of loneliness. They didn't die of a virus. They died of literal depression in their last days. That's a pure example of when an idea couldn't die because humans have an issue with these ideas being wrong. It's our ego of being right and wrong that gets the best of us.
Yep.
So if you can let your idea die, that's another way of saying you could let go of this desire to always want to be the one who's right, and the one that's also capable of compromising and collaborating with somebody else who actually has a much more effective idea than you have. Like, Logan, when me and you met, was there any challenge in the ideas that we shared, or was this feeling of like allowing each other to express the ideas?
Yeah, it was just all.
I was
It's
never
always been that way. Yeah.
right. And I feel like I need to give you that opportunity. Like, in order to call this a true relationship, there needs to be that. And so, yeah, Jordan Peterson saying that, it really put into words, in a short amount of words, something that I've been thinking about a lot, that we all need to let our ideas die when it's ready for them to die, just like when it's the time for your parents to die, or anybody that grows into older age. You need to surrender to the idea when it's time. And this comes full circle to some of our conversations about the people who are holding on to try to prevent this transhumanist future, or the AI takeover, or the quantum financial or whatever. But it's like, remember, we did the same thing with credit cards. We did the same thing with cell phones. We did the same thing with all this technology. We gave it so much resistance until we were pushed into it, and then learned essentially that it wasn't as nefarious and fucked up as we thought it would be. And it's actually, it serves us like a tool if we let it. And that's a great example of just like being present with yourself and not letting the idea, become the identity.
Yeah, totally. No, those are great points. Especially that last one. I think we can probably get to the tail end of this year of like what's coming. And we've talked about this so many times. We could probably talk about this topic for a really long time.
Yeah.
Right. But like, what is coming, and then, like, I guess, and I'm all about foundations. And ladies and gentlemen, what is your foundation? What your beliefs are? What do you believe is going to happen moving forward? Well, a lot of people out there are on the bandwagon of like, oh, we got to burn the ships. We got to take down the empires. We have to bring justice to the world. We got to bring these criminals to justice. And, and really, you're the person that just works in a cubicle. Like, what do you mean we? What are you talking about, we? Like, it's not you. No, it's going to be the cops. It's going to be the people that actually are working for the good side of the yin yang to do this correction, right? That the return of the Christ, to me, my foundation is the justice, is, it's the golden child coming back. And that's, we move in cycles, which, we're in the dark age. So you're at the age of death. Imagine everybody right now is living inside of a human being that's about to die. It's got like stage 4 cancer, and you're inside the belly. What does it look like?
Yeah.
It's dark.
Yeah,
it's
a
dirty.
harsh truth.
It's harsh. It's a very harsh reality. It's a very harsh conditions. And that's why all this stuff's happening. But you flip that into, it's just like your Earth is sick right now, and it needs to correct it. It needs to go on a healing venture. Maybe it needs to clean this. It clean out that. That's what you do. Like right now, I'm right at this very moment at 50, at 50. I'm doing an overhaul on my body. That's what I'm doing. And I feel like that's what the earth's doing right now. Like it has to, guy is like, I'm sick, I'm tired, I'm going to die, but I'm going to be reborn again. And that's what the hope is, folks. And just maybe the reborn aspect, the justice aspect, because I just don't see the internet going away. I just don't see that happening.
Neither do I.
I don't see it. I think we're going to be advancing more. The age of Aquarius is the electrical age, the age of Uranus. I think when that ends, you may see the end of technology, and then moving into Capricorn, which is an earth sign, you may move back into, maybe the Stone Age again. That's a long shot, but it's an earth sign. The age of Aquarius is an air sign. You're moving away from water sign, completely different age. You got to make lemonade out of this. And like Jordan said, man, there's nothing nefarious about this. I don't think anybody's out to dupe you or get you. They're creating a reality, and you're either going to be along for the ride, or you're going to be pushing up against it with resistance, and you're going to be angry and mad and being that victim and all that stuff that we had talked about, that we are hoping that you're not into at this point of the game. Because the age of Aquarius, as I often said, it's not going to be anything like the age of Pisces. So those are kind of like my final closing comments here. It's been 3 hours. It's like 3 a.m. for me, and I'm about ready to wind down.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I know you're just getting started, man.
I think that we touched on so much today. And did we do a podcast on the age of Aquarius?
We did not. We've talked about it.
Okay.
Maybe we should do that next time.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good 13th podcast to talk about the age of Aquarius. It's a perfect number.
It is.
But yeah, and like I think that's something I would love to maybe explore more with you, and kind of again maybe fit back in some of these ideas of what changes we anticipate, the purpose of perhaps that alien agenda being the key next form of chaos to actually push us in even quicker into this new so-called new age. And I believe we have a lot of theories about 2024 that could be like the pivot point, like the transition, a hard reset kind of year. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that. And otherwise, I don't really have anything else to share. I think 3 hours is a lot for people to chew on.
Yeah, we went over, like we were all over the place, but I think we're just going to do this Let's Talk 2 instead of trying to name it. But it could be just because it was had a lot of variety in it. But it's been a lot of fun, man. And I just love sharing space and time with you. And I don't think anybody knows we were doing this one. So a lot of people be jumping on this one. So
yeah, it's going to be very random release. So I'm excited to see how that all goes down. And I'm sure we're going to be doing another one very soon. Definitely let's do it before Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, I don't want to wait another 90 days to do another podcast with you.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll have
brother.
I know the goal is to get a studio, and that'd be kind of cool, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
For sure.
Yeah, man. All right, brother. Well, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Sending a ton of love to you wherever you're at, all your subscribers, all the Wolf Pack and the Water Above fans and subscribers and decoders out there. You probably notice the difference in my energy level. Like I'm ready to go to bed soon. Jordan's just waking up. So
yeah, man. No, I understand. I completely understand.
Yeah,
I know that you work into late night, and
I do, man. Usually my bedtime's really around 3-4 a.m.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah,
and you've been like that for a while, so I haven't been like that, and I haven't been like that for some time. So I know what it's like to operate at that late hour and still be cognitive.
Yeah. Usually I'm good, but I've been just eating really super clean, and my energy, and that just the food goes right through me. Drinking a lot of my food and stuff like that. So it's
all right, brother. Well, it was beautiful to be able to connect with you again for a really long podcast. I'm excited for when this goes up, and I'm looking forward to the next one already.
Yeah, brother. Sounds great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining in. Hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed this journey with all of us. If you're subscribed to both of our channels, thank you so very much. We appreciate all the love and support. For Decode Your Reality, my name is Logan Jordan over at Waters Above. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you later.